Today, the Pentagon announced the new press corps, for which Timcast is formally included. And we received this memo. I had tweeted about receiving the press memo. Many of you may have seen the story. The New York Times and many of these journalists were aghast. The Pentagon created a new set of rules. And I was curious. I said, wow, they're really trying to end the First Amendment? So certainly, I was shocked to find when I got the memo, there's literally nothing in it. I'm not joking. The memo is very boring. We actually have it. The New York Times published it. I think like 30% of the memo is telling you how to park your car. What is at odds with the issue for all of these news outlets that were like, I refuse to sign it, is that it says you will not solicit secret, confidential, or classified information, which is already a crime. That's what they prosecuted Julian Assange for. Journalists can receive documents from individuals who bring it to them unsolicited, but journalists that work towards the facilitation of leaking are now complicit in those crimes. Or at least that was the claim being made 6-7 years ago when the corporate press was cheering on charges against Julian Assange. So you don't get to have your cake. You don't get to cake your cake. You don't get to have your cake. You need it too. There's currently big protests going on in New York City. And we also have another massive story out of Ireland where there were riots the other night after a quote unquote asylum seeker was criminally charged with a 10-year-old girl. And I do that because, believe it or not, YouTube actually has a rule about censorship that pertains to the first 30 seconds of a YouTube video. So you got to wait a minute or two, and then you can say more terrifying things. But you get the point. You understand what I'm saying. Before we get started, my friends, we got some great sponsors for all of you. We got Crypto.com. Take a look at this. Is there audio on this one? There is not. Let's be clear, my friends. Cryptocurrency is no longer emerging. It's here. And this latest move cements that reality in a big way. Trump Media just inked a massive $6.4 billion deal with Yorkville Acquisition Corp and Crypto.com, the crypto platform trusted by millions of users worldwide. They're teaming up to scoop up $6.4 billion in CRO, the powerhouse token that fuels fast, low-fee DeFi staking rewards and real-world perks like cash back on your spends to establish America's first CRO treasury. Trump Media Group CRO strategy. When it's done, this new company will be the biggest publicly traded CRO holder out there. If you guys want to learn more, head over to Crypto.com today. And they say, let's make crypto great again. But crypto's been great the whole time. I've been a big fan. And I just wish that I had bought the crypto in 2011. I didn't. I only bought like 20 coins back then. And then I sold them when they hit $5 because I was, come on, who wouldn't? Check it out. Shout out Crypto.com for supporting the show. And we also have Tax Network USA. Do you owe back taxes? Are your tax returns still unfiled? Did you forget to file for an extension? The October 15th deadline is fast approaching. Actually, it's past. And your time is running out. But it's okay. You still got to get on top of it. You can. So if you haven't gathered all your documents or made any estimated payments, you could soon be targeted by the IRS. They could garnish your wages, freeze your bank accounts, or even seize property. But there is help. Tax Network USA, a nationwide tax firm, has helped taxpayers save over $1 billion in tax debt. They found hundreds of thousands of tax returns and assisted thousands in reducing their tax burdens. And they can help you too. Don't wait. Visit tnusa.com/Tim or call 1-800-958-1000 for a 100% free consultation. In one short call, the experts at Tax Network USA will guide you through some simple questions to determine how much you can save. Take action now before it's too late. Visit tnusa.com/Tim or call 1-800-958-1000. But don't forget to also smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. As of right now, there are massive protests happening in New York, and we colluded with Nick Shirley to make sure Nate Friedman wouldn't be there and would be here instead.
Thanks for having me, Tim. I appreciate it.
Who are you? What do you do?
I'm a boots-on-the-ground journalist, independent, and I follow the money. I expose some paid protesters, and I also ask people who they're voting for, So
Indeed. I watch a lot of your videos on Instagram, especially the ones where you track down these paid protesters, and I love it because I've made reference to this a lot. I haven't done street stuff for a while because at a certain point, too many followers, they start targeting you, and you move out of that space. But we knew these people. We called them the tourists. When people like Luke Rutkowski and I would go on the ground, you see the exact same people at every single protest, no matter what city you're in. And in fact, Turkey, even China. That's how insane it is. I have questions. So it's great that you're here. And I was kidding, but Nick is actually on the ground covering those protests, and we'll probably take a look at what's going on in New York in a moment, but should be interesting. Elaad is here.
Good evening, everybody. Nate, thank you so much for coming on. I think your work's invaluable. I keep up with all your paid protester coverage. I think it's very important and good, so kudos to you. My name's Elaad Eliyahu. I'm the White House correspondent here at Timcast, also Jewish Affairs correspondent, and now also the Pentagon reporter.
That's right.
So I feel like Marco Rubio just getting all these new job titles. What's up, Brett?
What's going on, guys? Brett, normally doing Pop Culture Crisis Monday through Friday at 3 p.m., but we got a bunch of stuff to get into today.
It's true. Tate Brown here. What's up, guys? Tate Brown holding it down. Great panel tonight, so I'm excited. Let's get into it.
Here's a story from the Washington Post. The Pentagon announces a new right-wing press corps after mass walkout. A new crop of conservative media and influencers, including the Gateway Pundit, the Post Millennial, Human Events, and National Pulse, signed an agreement with the Defense Department. The corporate press staged a walkout of the Pentagon, and I don't believe for a second it had anything to do with the Pentagon's policies. I think it has everything to do with the cult. Apparently, there were reporters who did not care and said, I have no problem signing this, and they were bullied by other media organizations. Threats of being blacklisted, never working in this town again. And a lot of these journalists were like, okay, I'll do whatever you say. That's why they're mad at us. And I can prove it to you. It's actually really simple logic. I'll say this because I won't bury the lead. We applied for a press credential. Thank you and have a nice day. That's it. We've never done any reporting from the Pentagon. We are not an investigative news organization. We are a podcast, news commentary, and interview show. We do not have journalists meeting with sources in parking garages while they kick over a manila folder with secret documents. We don't do any of that. At most, what we'll do is we'll say, Mr. Secretary, recently there were a drone strike on Venezuelan boats that you said were cartel and drug traffickers. The media is arguing that these were civilians. Can you comment? That's the most that we actually do. That is journalism. It's just not investigative journalism. And they're acting like Timcast getting a press pass so that Elaad can literally just say, Mr. Secretary, care to comment on the recent accusations made by the press so we can suss out some of their thoughts and views on things. They're acting like this is the apocalypse. Take a look at what the Washington Post writes. Nearly 1 week since a rash of Pentagon journalists turned in their press credentials after refusing to sign a new restrictive press policy, the Defense Department, you mean Department of War, announced a new, okay, hold on a minute. It's the Department of War. They changed the name. You can be mad about it, but they did. They announced a new media press corps largely hailing from right-wing outlets. The 60 people from various news organizations represent a broad spectrum of new media outlets and independent journalists. Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell wrote in a statement Wednesday on X, adding that all of the publications agreed to the agency's press policy. According to a draft of the announcement obtained by the Washington Post ahead of Parnell's tweet, the coalition of signatories include the cable news network Real America's Voice, streaming service Lindell TV, the websites The Gateway Pundit, The Post Millennial, Human Events, The National Pulse, Red State. It includes Turning Point USA's media brand Frontlines, as well as influencer Tim Pool's Timcast, and a Substack-based newsletter called Washington Reporter. The memo said that many independent journalists also signed, but did not specify who they were. The Defense Department's policy blocks journalists from soliciting information the department has not authorized for release, even unclassified details, a major shift in press outreach from the organization. This is a gross exaggeration and manipulation over what is actually going on. Now, I will tell you our statement. You know, there's a bunch of journalists insulting me and ragging on us, and they're crying, oh, and that shows you one thing. They were never journalists. They are partisan cultists. They are angry that we will not march in lockstep with their cult. This is very simple. We have never been to the Pentagon. I think actually a couple producers. Did you go, Tate? Mm-mm. It was who went? Kellen and Sean. They went recently after an invite over how we could potentially interview people in the Department of War if we were to do a podcast. That was about it. Then all of this happened. That is the extent we've ever been there. Elaad has a White House press credential so that he can go in the press briefing room and the Oval Office when able and ask questions. We are not investigative journalists to a certain degree. Maybe sometimes Elaad's going to dig into a story he might find some details on, but we don't dedicate our time to trying to uncover malfeasance and untoward behavior from corporations or government as investigators. I applaud all those who do. That work is tremendous. It's important. Fantastic. For what reason is it an affront to anyone that our organization said we would like to attend some press briefings to ask some questions, just like any other journalist who does? They're acting like the fact that we are there is they're insulting us over it. It's inane. And they're acting like something's wrong with journalism in the country because we requested a press pass. Isolate every news organization that they offered this to. First and foremost, the Pentagon offered everyone. Every organization was afforded the exact same opportunity with their memorandum. These are just the organizations that looked it over and said, okay, I guess. And you'll notice, one thing you'll notice, it's not so much that they're conservative leaning, independent or otherwise. It's that these are organizations that typically did not get access to these institutions. Now, certainly, I think there are many people who are just going to pony up to Trump no matter what he does, and he's always right and always going to do right. He can never do wrong. I'm not going to play that game. I certainly have no problem criticizing Trump over the Epstein handling, nor Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, despite them being friends of the show. Criticism where criticism is due. I've levied some criticism at a lot of organizations on the right. This memo, we have pulled it up because the New York Times made it available. There's quite literally nothing, in my opinion, in here that is, I got to be honest, a lot of it is just parking. I'm not kidding. Press parking. Parking at the Pentagon reservation is restricted to vehicles permitted. And I'm reading through this and I'm like, oh, I just really don't care. I'm not going to park there. We'll get dropped off. We'll drop our equipment off, whatever. Filming and photography and audio recording at the Pentagon is prohibited unless approved in advance. This is true for, I think, every military installation. Here's the issue. These journalists that were in the Pentagon, they were not journalists. They were Mockingbird media. The reason why they didn't have any, they could do whatever they wanted was because there was no distinction between them and the administrations they worked under. It was all a handshake agreement, and we all know. They lied to the people. They're lying about this. Basically, what they're saying right now is this agreement forces you to say that you won't solicit information unless they approve of it. It says you won't solicit confidential, classified, or otherwise information and release it. Okay, let me just stress to everybody who's listening. You can turn in your press badge. That's it. So let's say you're at the Pentagon. You've got what's called the PFAC, the press pass that you applied for, and you stumble upon a story for which you're like, whoa, hold on. I can't believe what I'm hearing. The American people need to know this. And so here's a guy. You're like, tell me what's going on with this. Now, there are some questions. If you facilitate in any way the leaking of classified information, it's actually a crime. Journalists can receive the information, but there's questions over where the line is when they start to solicit that information. It actually becomes criminal. So in the event you find a story that is of massive, tremendous public knowledge, you already know about the story. You can ask for confirmation and details. That is not a crime. If the Pentagon has a problem with that, you can say, Mr. Hegseth, here's your press badge back. Adios. The issue at play here is they want to have their cake and eat it too. So I have a question. I mean, if there's an investigative journalist with no access to the Pentagon who works for Tate News Corp, and he's investigating the Pentagon, and then he goes to Elaad from Timcast and says, take a look at this story that I've uncovered. What's stopping Elaad from going, Mr. Secretary, we have a story that we got from Tate News Corp saying these things. They're fabricating a reason to storm out of the press, out of the Pentagon. And I think the real issue here, and I apologize for the long rant, but I think the real issue here is the media was Mockingbird. The Biden administration, the Obama administration, the media was the government. It was all part of the same manipulation. That's why they had free reign to do whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. And now that Trump is in and they hate him and he represents a new system emerging and taking over, now the media says, quick, clear out, because it's a cult. The new organizations that come in, what do you do when you're at the Pentagon? Is it commonplace that journalists just constantly walk around the Pentagon saying, leak me information? No, it's about going to press briefings, having interviews, and getting quick access to people in government. You can ask them about stories that are in the public sphere. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you all agree, but that's my statement.
I mean, it seems like a very easy manipulation for people who don't understand the way that this aspect of government and media works, that it's a very easy story to frame for people that paints the new media, as they call it, in a specific light, while taking advantage of a layperson's understanding of how press briefings work or how media structure works. It really, if you're from an outsider looking in, it just looks like they don't like the idea of people that are outside of the club getting into the club.
Yeah. Well,
That's right.
yeah, and beyond that, I mean, the legacy media has an axe to grind with new media. So right off the rip, one side has a bone to pick with the other. So you're obviously going to get some ridiculous reporting. And yeah, I mean, even from the Pentagon's perspective, I mean, in the lead up to the story about the Pentagon media walkout, every article they were running was just these leaked characterizations from unnamed Pentagon officials. There was no documents. There was no nothing. So it's the Pentagon had holes to plug, obviously, because the media was just adversarial the entire time. So it's they're throwing a fit, and they were adversarial the entire time. It's get lost. This is part of the reorientation towards new media, because that's just the more useful, that provides more utility for Americans, quite frankly.
In my perspective, it's a privilege, not a right, to be able to cover the White House, to be able to get into the Pentagon, to be able to ask questions at these briefings. As I understand, these journalists are used to trying to solicit information from Pentagon officials throughout the Pentagon, and they used to have the right to walk around the Pentagon building without an escort. I believe that's part of the rule change now, where they will be required to walk around with an escort and won't be able to freely try to solicit information from different Pentagon officials just throughout the building. It's fascinating, too, because the White House has these same rules. I can't la-di-da walk around any part of the White House. They have a specific area that the press is allowed into, a relatively small area. And then if you're ever trying to go anywhere extended beyond that, you have to be with somebody with your press pass present. If you're somewhere where you're not supposed to be, people will aggressively come up to you. Random White House people will be like, you need to be escorted here, or you're not allowed to be in this area. I think this is largely in an effort, though, from Pete Hegseth to prevent leaks and, these unfavorable reporting that we are seeing on the Pentagon through disgruntled employees at the Pentagon. There are a lot of people there who aren't happy with how Pete Hegseth has been running the show over there, and they want to, they have an axe to grind, and they'll grind that axe through the media. And Hegseth is trying to prevent that from occurring.
Yeah. Well, it just shows that they're politicized within. It shows that there's a contingent. The same thing happened at the DOJ when there was the purge plan of the DOJ. And then all the media did was just establish that there is an insurgent group within the DOJ that is not following orders. They're not respecting the American people, and we voted in on Trump. So I mean,
my reaction to all this is I'm sitting here being we used to have a small news team, but it was largely aggregation. There were a few stories that we broke when we had sources, but it was largely aggregation for the purpose of collecting stories that we thought were important and putting them in a written format, because I do videos. So I'm doing very surface level journalism every single day. When I put together the noon show, I'm collecting a bunch of sources, fact checking, pulling in data points. And the old school media hates it for a variety of reasons. We've displaced them. We've taken away their position as this they viewed themselves as a special elevated class of people above you. They had access to the ivory tower for which they could espouse their views. We destabilized that, and they got really mad at us. Now seeing all of this and the reaction, I'm like, oh, maybe we should hire a bunch of journalists and do a legit an actual newsroom. I mean, it's really a simple question. What is the purpose of being in the Pentagon? Do you need to be in the Pentagon to do an investigative report? The answer is no.
No, not at all.
Unless you're sneaking around, I guess.
And if you have sources, they can leak to you. You don't physically need to be in the building.
Exactly.
But I guess you don't have that moment of spontaneity where you're passing somebody in the hallway with a wink and a nod, and then you can meet them and you're like, hey, do you have any access to Grindr? Are you pissed at any of your subordinates? Or did your boss piss you off? Do you want to leak something stupid about them? And then, ultimately it looks bad on the way up. I think there is a serious national security risk here with having all these reporters looking for scoops running around in the Pentagon. And I think they compromise national security with a lot of these leaks, obviously beyond the reporting. But when you do have some disgruntled soldiers, I forgot the name of the specific guy, but a couple of years ago, there were massive leaks, and that was a national security issue. It wasn't the WikiLeaks guy, but the Discord leaks. There's serious consequences.
Oh yeah, wow. Oh, that was.
There are serious consequences to this stuff, and we need to tighten things over at the Pentagon. We can't have, pissed off employees leaking or pissed off employees accidentally leaking on Discord, I guess.
Yeah, well, because it's like, okay, the Pentagon is aware that there is a portion of their staffing that is disgruntled. So if the media is coming in with the sole intent of like just finding these people, identifying who these people are, and then publicizing their messaging, like they totally have the right to clamp down on this.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
The media really does have an axe to grind in a way. Like you said, like there's an aspect now where the people who pivoted and learned to pivot to something like YouTube or Rumble, whatever it is, putting themselves in front of the camera, especially the written journalist class hated that, because the ability to write well doesn't always necessarily equate to being able to speak well on camera and being able to present media in an engaging way. This is something that's going on a lot of ways in Hollywood as well, which is like they're trying to continue this old guard of how media is done, while YouTube and these other platforms are starting to eclipse them.
Let me explain to you guys what this is really about. I have before you User Mag, Taylor Lorenz's Substack. So she worked for the Atlantic, the Washington Post. How many likes do you think she gets on an article on her new Independent? Well, that's a little low. I was displaying the likes a moment ago. Maybe if I zoom in. Oh, there it is. Oh, the likes are there. Yeah. 369. Wow. Ooh, 975. 642 likes. That's great. 20 comments. She's getting nothing.
Right.
I mean, this is nothing. You're not living off of this. The issue is that people like Taylor Lorenz, who don't have the skill, the merit, nay, the nobility to even work for any kind of, to run any kind of media business or be in, they need to be propped up by the machine.
Well, look at somebody like a House and Habit who went from like working as like basically just being a mommy blogger to being like a very, very prolific voice in aspects of politics and culture, runs a Substack that does very, very like incredible numbers. Somebody who has the ability, even if we're not talking putting yourself in front of the camera, but somebody who writes well, is engaging, knows how to put together a package of information that really, really speaks to people, will succeed on their own. Substack is a way that people are doing that on a written platform, but the people who are resistant to change in media are going to have an axe to grind with everybody in the space.
But it's no, go ahead.
Back on this Hegseth stuff for a moment. I think Hegseth is trying to change up a lot of the culture at the Pentagon, and it's pissing a lot of people off. It's pissing off the fat generals, the generals who believe in DEI, the generals that believe that there should be lower standards for, minorities or women inside the service. And that's pissing off a lot of generals who end up leaking to people at like the Washington Times. And I'm taking a look at this article right now, and it says Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has lost the trust and respect of some top military commanders with his public grandstanding from the speech that he gave a week or so ago, widely seen as unprofessional, and the personnel moves made by the former cable TV host leading an unprecedented and dangerous exodus of talent from the Pentagon, said current senior military officers and current and former Defense Department officials. This is what I think Hegseth is trying to prevent. More articles like these coming out. Disgruntled generals over at the Pentagon pissed off with the needed changes that he's making to try to reinvigorate our army, to try to deal with the threats that we are seeing abroad. This is why I think he's trying to make these changes to prevent more of the bad optics from these generals.
I think the issue for a lot of these corporate news outlets is that they're access journalists. If you guys aren't familiar,
totally.
Yes.
Yep.
This means that they're newsrooms that only exist because they've been given a credential, whereas we here often say things that piss people off, even if they're our friends, because we think truth and transparency matters, and honor, integrity too. Some of these newsrooms don't have any merit, don't have any credibility. What they have is they're friends with someone in an administration.
They have access.
Exactly. Now that they're not friends with the Trump administration, they have nothing. They barely have access. Then they say, we're going to restrict your access, and they're like, uh-oh, what are we going to write?
I mean, this is happening in entertainment too. Like Variety will go to these like red carpet premieres, and people who cover it get 10 times the views that they do because they're providing some type of interesting commentary as opposed to just going and asking inane questions to celebrities.
Well, I mean, it's beyond. This is happening with every institution in the United States, like with legacy media. All they're doing is they're just benefiting from the hard work that people like a generation or two did to establish those connections, to build the New York Times, to build the Washington Post. And they're just running off of those fumes. And this is happening with every institution in the United States because, broadly speaking, now with the internet, now we're in the digital age, it's democratized information. People, we are able to reorient sort of our intake of content regardless of what the medium is. I mean, we have a great example sitting
exactly.
right
You
here.
can go out
And so, yeah, like that's all they benefit from is the hard work from people that came before them. But now that their usefulness is sort of running thin, we're going to tune into Timcast because it's just going to be better. And like you're talking about Taylor Lorenz, it's like the thing that separates House and Habit from Taylor Lorenz is House and Habit actually has like an interesting perspective. They have an interesting take versus Taylor Lorenz is just like crappier version of what you would have on the New York Times. So it's like, why would I even bother?
So, well, Nate, what do you think? Am I compromising my journalistic integrity? Am I suddenly a shill for the Department of War?
No, not at all.
It's okay if you think
no,
I am.
I don't think so. I mean, oh, sorry. No, I don't think so. I think that, one thing about like legacy media that I've noticed, in the press room, I'm obviously not in the White House press room, but there's just this sense of disrespect that's kind of odd to me. Like, you should respect the office regardless of who's there. Like, there was one particular moment where Caroline Leavitt kind of dunks on Caitlin Collins when she's just like, you should just be on the ground. Why are you not on the ground? It's much easier to lie about what's happening when you're not on the ground. So like when I'm out there, you can't accuse me of lying. It's not AI. I'm on the street talking to these people. So that's a big thing that I would point out. Yeah.
There's a
Actually,
sense of
there's no
entitlement.
Nate. He's just AI. There's a guy in a green screen a green screen suit sitting there.
Yeah.
So I have a friend actually who's talking about wanting to create like a secondary channel because he goes to a lot of these events and he's like, I want to start documenting this stuff. I think it's important, but he does other work and he doesn't want to necessarily put people off his other content because it's not political, whatever. And I said, look, like there's a million people in the commentary space now. It's very, very hard to get started here, but just the act of going on the ground and getting information, boots on the ground, asking questions is invaluable. And like more people should be doing it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Let's jump to this story. From the Post-Millennial, FBI Director Kash Patel says Bureau is on the verge of unmasking the funding and command structure behind the Antifa terror group. Patel said there are indications that support for anti-American radical groups is coming from America's enemies overseas, that the Bureau is following the money. We have this President Trump's roundtable, I guess. They say Patel said, furthermore, Patel indicated the funding is also coming from U.S. nonprofits with IRS tax-exempt status. Look, the thing I can tell you is that the money doesn't lie. And the thing we're doing at the FBI is following the money. And thanks to President Trump, we now have Antifa designated, rightfully so, as a domestic terror organization. And we have had multiple investigations going on. The one thing I want to stress, we're looking at a decentralized network of various organizations. We are looking at cells that use the actual brand Antifa as a proper noun. But I would say Antifa largely describes the semi-centralized, and it's not totally decentralized, network of leftists that train, recruit, finance, or otherwise all of the leftist movements we see in this country. Now, Nate, you've uncovered a lot of these people.
Yeah.
What's going on? Who are these people?
Yeah, I want to point out one thing first, which is that the reason why this is so difficult to trace, and bravo to this administration for doing it, for real, this is such a big deal, is that these groups are not even nonprofits a lot of the time. They're under an umbrella of several other nonprofits, right? So you take someone at the top, like a Soros, who gives money to Tides, who then gives money to Progress Unity Fund, who then gives money to Answer Coalition. And it's done, I mean, if you're proud of what you're giving your money to, you're not hiding it, you don't go through all that trouble, right? So you have to follow it all the way through several different nonprofits. It's a big thing.
And the individuals often will work for multiple nonprofits, not just one. You'll find, some friends of mine and I were looking at various nonprofits that bring in funding through. I mean, we used to do fundraising for nonprofits, and we'd find that 3 board members were 3 executive level staff members. There were like 12 people, and they'd each be on the board of a different company and executive staff of a different company to fulfill their legal requirements. So they could have a bunch of different nonprofits, and they could shuffle money between each other, making it very difficult to track.
Correct. And so someone who I exposed, so David Chung, who the leader of the People's Forum protests that they organize like twice a week. Okay, so he's on the IRS tax forms for the People's Forum, getting paid $75,000 a year to protest. I confronted him. He said, no comment, no comment, no comment. This guy's taken taken pictures with Tlaib. Like, this guy has connections to Congress, right? He's also on the board of Rise and Resist, another protest group. He's also with the Singham Justice Fund. So it's just like Tim is saying, yes, it's very true. These people are protesting for multiple orgs.
When I was at Occupy Wall Street, this is a story that I mentioned before, and as highlighting your work, Nate, uncovering, you walk up to these people and you're like, here's a paid protester, and then you like show a picture and explain how they're getting paid. So we were talking about this. I told this story when I was at Occupy Wall Street. Fox News is saying, oh, they're all paid protesters, things like this. And the belief among normies that were showing up as tourists to Occupy, not actively being there, was that Fox was lying. None of these people were being paid. That's ridiculous. They were collecting donations. The truth was there were a handful of trust fund kids who were there because they were bored, but nonprofit organizations in New York had staffers there during work hours because they got the day off. So there were a handful of people that I met from various charities, nonprofits, and also political organizations that were progressive and leftist. And I'm talking to them, and they say, "Oh yeah, I work for insert organization." I'd be like, "Oh wow, are they paying you to be here?" No. And I'm like, "Oh, are you off?" Well, they gave me today off to come down. This is what happens. You work for a nonprofit whose mission is communism, socialism, or otherwise. What does that mean? It means you're handing out postcards. It means you're fundraising. It means you're organizing at universities. Occupy Wall Street happens, and they say, why don't you take the day off and go hang out at Occupy?
Right.
What happens? They go to Occupy. They facilitate, organize, exacerbate, recruit, finance, etc., and they are paid a salary, but today is their day off. Mm-hmm. That's the game they're playing a lot of times.
Yeah, well, like, you go to their websites, like a lot of these like freedom funds and that sort of thing, and it's like George Costanza's human fund, like it's like Chat GPT nonsense, and it's just like vague descriptions like we're seeking justice and reconciliation, and it's like what is going on here? How do they employ 50, 60 people? Like,
I think it's important to expose the idea of somebody being paid to do that at all, because I think the average normie who doesn't follow politics closely maybe only pays a little bit of attention when election season comes around or this stuff is going on right now. The idea that somebody would be paid to go out and do something like that would be completely foreign to them. When they see these people in a large group, they're imagining hundreds of people who all independently of their own volition came to the idea that I need to go out and stand up against tyranny or whatever they're talking about, no kings. And the idea that people would be paid money to do it is just shocking to a lot of people.
I mean, the point that Tim brought up about how they take the day off. So case in point was the Trump Tower occupation, one of them, right? So you get in the middle of the day on a Tuesday, 30 people. So I interview this woman, and it turns out she works for a nonprofit, Jewish Currents. It's a super far left magazine, and she's just there in the middle of the workday. She on her LinkedIn, everything says that she works there. So again, she's given the day off to go and occupy the king's home. You know, you come to think that these people, I asked them, do you think Trump is a dictator? And they don't have an answer for me anymore, because they know if Trump was a dictator, that would be the last building they would walk into.
They'd be allowed into.
You just invaded his family's home, you know, and they're escorted out so nicely, you know what I mean? They're carried out. It's a joke.
So this is another thing. Man, I actually knew a lot of these guys at Occupy who I assume are like feds, or Fed isn't the right word. You know, this is the mistake people made, because this is like an international coalition of well-funded. They are individuals. They're activists. They're revolutionaries. They are at the higher level. It's almost like they're intelligence guys, but they're not working for any. It's like a rogue nation almost. Mm-hmm. They work with Soros. They know Soros's family, but the problem is the way they shuffle this money around. I think looking at Soros singularly is not necessarily a mistake, but it misses the bigger picture. A lot of this money, I believe, coming from USAID, shuffled around. A lot of it was coming from what we saw with Lee Zeldin uncovering these green slush funds, where the Biden administration pulls it like $7 billion or some insane number into a nonprofit that existed for a month. That was insane. And Trump comes in.
You're talking about the Stacey Abrams thing? That was like the $2 billion slush fund. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Well, the one that, whatever it was, Lee Zeldin uncovered a couple working in environmental issues for the federal government under Trump. Yeah. And he said the Biden admin was dumping money into these charities that just started. Then what happens? Let me tell you guys a secret. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but did you know that every nonprofit is two nonprofits? No. 501c3 and 501c4. Are you familiar with those terms?
Yes.
So the way it works is a 501c3 is a tax-exempt charitable organization. Their financing has to be filed publicly through what's called the 990 or 990N. You can look those up for every charity. However, most organizations will simultaneously launch what's called a 501c4 or comparably known as a PAC. It's not always PACs. These are not tax-exempt donations, but they don't need to be publicly disclosed. So here's what happens. You will see someone fundraising for famous progressive charitable cause, and they'll be talking to you at an event, at your door, on the street, on the phone, whatever it may be. And they'll say, guys, I'll use a modern example. Donald Trump is trying to be a dictator. We have only a few years to stop him. Here's the problem. Our organization only brought in, guess how much? $2 million last year. Can you believe it? Everybody knows Trump's a dictator, and we could only get $2 million. Now, you're probably saying, Tim, that's a lot of money. But I assure you, with our staff of 100 people working around the clock to stop Trump, you break that down, we are working at poverty wages to stop the fascist takeover. That's why we need you right now. I need $50 a month. Can you commit? It's just $50 a month. Cut out one Starbucks coffee a day, and you're making this possible. What do you say? Handshake. You know what they don't tell you? The actual charity will bring money in and send it to the 501c4, or when you then fill out that form, wherever you may be, you're donating to a 501c4 that doesn't need to disclose the total amount of donations they bring in. So they're technically telling you the truth. You'll donate to Brett Dasovic, the Fund Incorporated. It'll say on the form, your donation goes to the Brett Dasovic Fund, who brought in $700 million last year.
Let's go.
The Brett Dasovic Fund then donates $2 million to the Brett Dasovic Environmental Causes nonprofit.
Perfect.
That way I can then go and say, Brett Dasovic's environmental nonprofit only brought in $2 million last year. Will you give us money? What they don't disclose, because they don't have to, because they're technically telling the truth, all that money is being shuffled to a 501c4 that won't disclose where the money goes, and then they give a tiny little bit. You'll see it's amazing. There will be like the executive director of a well-known, famous progressive nonprofit. Watch for this. They'll say, I only make $80,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And I know for a lot of people in this country, that's high. And that's sad, isn't it? I am a CEO level, an executive at a large organization, and I don't get the millions of dollars these guys do at this job. What they don't tell you is they also have another job as the executive director of Fund Incorporated, where they get paid $7 million a year.
I mean, a lot of those CEOs end up making that amount too. They just get the rest in stock options.
It's all one big shell game. What I described it as back in the day is selling hopes and dreams to people.
So then the question is like the way he's selling it here is that they're going to nail down the funding. And I think the idea there is that people have an idea of like there's a person at the end of that tunnel. There's a George Soros at the end of that tunnel. And I think what people have a hard time with, maybe it's just because of the way people have been raised right now, because they've watched more movies and television rather than read about notes on how nonprofits work, is they're imagining that there's an end of the tunnel where there's a document that leads to a specific person who's been funding all this, and they're not going to be comfortable with the idea that it's not that simple.
Yeah, it's probably going to end up being a couple thousand individuals.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be Democrat politicians. It's as simple as USAID or these slush funds. They create a fund. They then say, we're going to give, I mean, it's fascinating because some of these organizations that initially get the funds could be innocuous. It could be like the repairing TVs in low-income neighborhoods nonprofit that gets $30 million or whatever. And it's like, we want to ensure that there's digital infrastructure for people in rural areas. And then you take a look at their books. They make charitable contributions to various foundations. And after 3 or 4 different degrees of separation, you find it all goes towards an organization that's on the ground protesting.
Yeah, well, that's why it's so useful that the FBI is actually doing this. Because, yeah, for a lot of people, there's a lot of names to keep up with, a lot of organizations. Everything's constantly unraveling. New ones. It's like a game of whack-a-mole. Yeah. It's going to be nice to get a few names out there that can allow you to kind of put the pieces together to fill in some gaps. Because, yeah, right now it's just very frustrating. I mean, that's the intention, obviously, but it's very frustrating because from the outsider perspective, I mean, it's really tough to stay on top of everything.
I want to ask you, Nate, because aside from going on the ground and doing field reporting, you've confronted paid protesters. Mm-hmm. Have you faced threats to your safety from challenging them in person?
Oh, in person, all I've had is a water bottle thrown at me. So I'm lucky.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my DMs aren't as nice, but yeah.
But what do you find when you confront these people? Like, how does it go down? Do they panic?
Yeah, they panic. I mean, the No Kings one was hilarious. I walked up to the 4 vests, the Amazon vests that they wear.
Yeah.
And I walk up and, I'm just like asking them, what's the plan for the protest? Like, oh, our job is to do this. Or we're marshaling here. And I'm like, are you working with the NYPD? Like, what do you mean that you're like running traffic? You're like, what are you talking about? Right. And she's like, oh, we didn't have a briefing with them. I'm like, do they know about you? And she's like, yeah, they're not blind. And I'm like, okay, well, that's odd. Right. So what happens is I show the credentials and then the woman goes, I think this is one of the right-wing troll guys. And then they go like, oh, and they don't know how to handle it. And they just talk over each other.
Have you ever called out one of their names to them without them knowing who you were? Like, you're John Smith.
Well, with David, I was like, hey, David, how you doing? He was like, hey, Nate, how you doing?
Oh, he knew you were.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you think these people are starting to track you because they know you're putting out videos that are getting hundreds of thousands or millions of views?
I mean, like when I go to a protest, almost instantly, I do have people following me, asking, telling the protesters not to speak with me, but it has a reverse effect because a lot of the protesters are like, what's the problem with this kid?
Yeah.
Like, what did he, like, I'm just, so then they speak with me and it looks so bad on their part because it's like this person has agreed to do an interview with me, just someone who's like, he's brainwashed, but he's not paid. He's just there to protest. Right. He's like, look, I want to talk. I want to speak into a microphone. I'm at a protest. And they're like, no, don't speak to him. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like I've been on the ground at the lot, like in New York, and a lot of people will spot him, and of course they think he's every name in the book, but the way that they retaliate is just like the cattiest, like low test reactions. They're no, don't talk to him, like but it's like in a weird, like there's a level of cordialness and a level of familiarity, and it's like just so like soy.
Remember when you got
So
attacked
Reddit.
at a bar?
Yeah, I did. Well, for being a fascist Zionist, I got kicked out of a bar.
Yeah.
A Jewish Nazi.
A couple of people have tried to attack me through like my years on the street there, like a couple of fistfights. Nothing too crazy though. I think I'm on the luckier side of all of that. It's not too crazy out in New York City though. It's definitely, it hasn't reached like the levels of Portland or anything like that.
Yeah, definitely not. No, I think the NYPD does a very good job, honestly. I
also think it is worth mentioning, while there are some paid protesters, I don't believe most are paid.
Correct.
Like most people are there on their own volition
95%.
and they're excited to be there. A lot of the anti-Israel protesters out there, all these Arabs and Muslims out there, I don't think they're getting paid to be there. I think they're fighting for their motherland. Then there are these other group of people who are being paid though, and these are these pieces of shit legal observers who say they're only there to make sure police are doing their job, but they're really there to just assist the far left protesters in whatever protest they're trying to proceed in. Then this other group of people who might be the worst out of any of these are the sympathetic photographers, protesters and everything but name photographers looking to like aggrandize these people and like take sexy pictures of them for their Instagram pages, and then they could all post their pictures and try to make it look like they're doing something relevant on the street, so they could try to be put in some newspaper article and like front page of the New York Times. And it's a collection of them, and they'll all work together, and then they'll be like fed stories from the protesters, so they'll work hand in fist with them. They're making money, the legal observers are making money, but I just kind of wanted to break down what's going on the streets over there. The legal observers, I think I have the biggest beef with because they are so nakedly and openly partisan. They won't go to any right-wing rallies and try to protect right-wingers and just say, oh, we're just observing what's going on and trying to protect their First Amendment rights. It's only at far left events where they feel like it is necessary for them to show up and micromanage the police's every move.
Yeah, and it's the way they behave is so catty.
They're just bitching and moaning. They're just
so
bitching
annoying.
and moaning.
This is what I think should have people concerned. Occupy Wall Street, for instance. Who's going to be in a camp at Occupy Wall Street? Do you think it's going to be any legitimate journalist who's like, I want to get to the bottom of what's going on? Nate, why aren't you camping with these far leftists and following around? And it's because it's only a certain kind of person that would literally do that. When I went to Occupy, it was largely just an interesting thing for me to see. I also have no problem with sleeping in the streets. So when Occupy started, I was like, sure, whatever. What I end up finding is that were I not there, the narrative, the history of that space will always have been a lie. Because the leftists control the narrative. There were a handful of rapes in the park. Well, of course they were. What do you think happens when you have a bunch of people just sleeping in the street? They're in a park by themselves in dense camps where there's clusters of people banging drums all night. No one can hear anything. Loud traffic. Several rapes happened. You know what the response was from the Occupy facilitators? Don't tell anyone because it'll make us look bad. Yep. There was a division between the east and the west sides of Zuccotti Park during Occupy. The east side of the park was controlled by trust fund kids who were trying to manipulate and control things. But the people who actually comprised the occupying body, they formed what's called the General Union on the west side of the camp. No joke. The east side of the camp there weren't really that many tents. It wasn't as dense. And that's where they had the General Assembly. Trust fund kids, facilitators, and paid protesters were organizing. They had what's called the progressive stack, meaning if you were a white man, you didn't get to speak. No joke. You were the speech order for everybody who raised their hand was based on how oppressed you were, not a joke. So if you were a paraplegic, a lesbian of color with a developmental disability, you would speak first. If you were a white man, they would look at you and go, anyone besides a white man want to speak? Okay, well then moving on. The other side of the park tried holding their own rally because they were concerned that they were the actual Occupy and being shut out. And facilitators came and threatened violence against them. That's how insane Occupy Wall Street was. What was actually going on in that park was disarray, disorganization, and chaos. I guarantee you, if you find one of these occupiers who wrote a book about it, it's going to be a romanticized fantasy utopia of what happened. They use narratives like that to try and convince people communism will work. Yeah. Then you actually go and experience what it was. Let me tell you, I walked into the park one day and they had the food section. They were giving out food to people who were hungry. Tourists who were walking through the park to check out Occupy were taking some of this food. Guess where the food came from?
Dumpster?
Dumpster! That is correct. Leftists went dumpster diving, grabbed a bunch of expired trashed food, brought it in crates to Occupy, started handing it out to people. And I walked up and I saw one of the labels on it. And then I was like, where did you guys get all this food? And they were like, dumpster diving. And I said, what do you think the press is going to say when they find out you're handing dumpster food to tourists? And they got shocked and then shoveled it all into the garbage and tried getting rid of it.
They're homeless maxing. It's the new method, I hear. But
I remember
what the left does.
During the George Floyd riots, there was this one van that would show up to all of the events to hand out snacks and goodies and make sure everybody at the protests was hydrated and everything. Just strange things that people decide to commit. And I don't think even those people were paid.
Who makes the shields? Who makes the shields?
Good question. Who makes the shields?
Yep.
I mean, you brought up the legal thing. It's something that
the legal observers?
Yeah, but also something I really want people to know about is that how often there are arrests at these protests. Arrests in New York City are expensive, right? A lot of time these police are on overtime. And so who pays to bail these people out? Okay. Look into, or you can watch one of my videos on it, but if you go to scroll down on the bottom of Palestine Legal, you will see at the bottom Tide Center. So George Soros gives money to the Tide Center. And this organization is just made to bail protesters out. Anti-West protesters is made for that. So it's expensive to have thousands of arrests at these protests. It's taxpayer money.
Nate, I will say nowadays it's cashless bail, so a lot of these guys get out without anything. If anything, it's just costing the city the overtime hours that the NYPD has to constantly put in for all these guys.
Yeah, and then they got to pay for the Met tickets once they release them. It's just crazy, yeah.
I'm concerned with this investigation from the FBI. They're not actually going to go for the root. Because do you have any idea, you do, what it would look like if Cash actually said, we are going to start arresting and shutting down these funding sources? We're talking about, hundreds of nonprofits with millions of dollars in funding? We're talking about an entire sector of our economy. Yeah. Probably a decent percentage that is literally just professional revolutionaries, agitators, and their legal apparatus.
You think violence is bad now?
I believe
watching
they're
funding.
You think they're going to do it?
Yeah, I do.
What do you think happens?
Because I trust the president, because when he posted my work, I could not believe it. That was
How old are you?
I will just say that 28.
Amazing.
But that was probably the best day of my life. Yeah, I'd probably say, because it was
a month or two ago.
It's in June, and he captions it with my name, and I was like, the president just what? And he means business. You can be on the right or the left. He tends to keep promises, and he's been on Fox. He's been, even when I was at Charlie Kirk's memorial service, Trump mentioned paid protesting.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Things are on purpose with him. I think he's going to do it.
Based on what you know about this paid protesting stuff, what do you think it looks like when the DOJ finally announces the first indictments or the moves against these networks?
Well, you can look at oversight committee. Like Anna Paulina Luna is doing a great job with this. She knows about Singham. They know they need to bring this guy who's a Marxist billionaire living in China, whose wife is Jody Evans, who's the Code Pink one, who's literally harassing congressmen whenever they're at the cafeteria. They know the names already, which is a huge start, and they've been public about knowing the names. So I think it looks like wrapping up these giant umbrellas, right? Because there's not that many. Like you look at Westpac and Progress Unity Fund. Those two are huge. And then there's like 20 groups under them. But look at those two. And I think when you get a news about the DOJ, it's going to be about Westpac and Progress Unity Fund.
We have this image that Rep. Anna Paulina Luna posted.
Yep.
And you can see all of these organizations, No King's Partners. I believe this is yearly revenue. Is it not? Because I can't imagine that they're pulling millions of in per month. I imagine this is the totals for the end of the year, right? You've got ACLU with 42 million. That seems like a yearly number.
Yeah.
The ACLU, you want to hear a funny story about the ACLU?
Yeah.
Oh man, I think I could get in trouble for talking about the story. I'll keep it really light. I worked for, oh man, I could probably get in trouble. I'm going to say it anyway because here we are. I already opened the door. I worked for a corporation that did fundraising for the ACLU. We believed there was a labor law violation. So when we found out that the company that was working with the ACLU, okay, so we work for company A who contracts with the ACLU. When we found out that we were getting ripped off, so we believed, we reached out to the ACLU asking if they could do something about it, and they said, no, it's a conflict of interest and we don't want to get involved. And we were like, this is supposed to be what you do. But they were like, yeah, but no, because we make money from these people. So we just said, okay. And that was the end of the ACLU for me for the most part. Yep.
Is there something to be said about, like, oftentimes I think, like, I think back to the LA riots earlier this year, where there is a propensity on the right to disbelieve that this can just occur organically, and we kind of want someone up the ladder that we can chuck in jail, which, I mean, I'm not, like, this is obviously really at the core of a lot of these things. But, like, when I look at the LA riots, to me, there is enough tension in, like, that community with ICE that these sort of riots would occur anyway, regardless of
There are enough
funding.
Mexicans in LA pissed about ICE deporting their family members.
Right. There's enough abuelas and abuelitas.
I don't think anybody
or
needs to.
whatever.
Soros doesn't need to pay out the Mexican to be mad about his abuela getting deported.
Yeah, so I think, like, sometimes I think people on the right just really can't believe that this is happening, that this is the state of the country.
What's Arabella? Are you
Those
familiar?
Arabs.
Arabella.
Yeah, Arabella.
I
So
knew
there's Arabella, Buffett, Ford, Rockefeller, Soros, and the Tides Foundation.
Yeah, so like each of these are enough to spend a lifetime looking into, right? So
Right.
Soros and Tides, it's funny how they split those up. These are virtually the same thing. Soros is the principal donor of Tides.
Really?
Yeah, Soros donates, hundreds of millions of dollars through Tides. So it's like saying, putting them in different columns it's needed because there's different people who donate to Tides, but it's mostly Soros. Rockefeller, Ford, all these names, it's like crazy. I do this every single day of my life and I haven't gotten to those names,
Yep.
I'm looking up Arabella Advisors. Their LLC advises left-leaning donors. It was created by former Clinton administration appointee Eric Kessler. They raise a ton of money and they dole it out to different Democrat interest groups.
Now, this is important. These are not, this funding is not for No Kings. These are just people who worked with No Kings. So you can see they've got the Human Rights Campaign. Where's the old Human Rights? Here you go. Human Rights Campaign Foundation. And you can see 2 million. Now, I'm curious. Why does it say Human Rights Campaign Foundation? You're all familiar with the Human Rights Campaign, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it lists it as the Human Rights Campaign Foundation. I'm curious if there's a distinction. Is there a distinction between Human Rights Campaign? I bet there is. Yes, they are legally distinct. Surprise, surprise. The Human Rights Campaign Foundation is a 501c3 and the Human Rights Campaign is a 501c4. Wow. Hey, isn't that funny how I just described how nonprofits have this practice of splitting themselves up? To be fair, every single nonprofit does it. Even Project Veritas had Project Veritas Action. But I don't trust them. I trust James.
I do think the left wing does a very good job of organizing their donations and their funds and raising funds from donors across the board for what issues they care about. So if you read through these different organizations, it's catch-all leftist issues, but it's things like gun control, LGBTQ issues, race issues, abortion issues.
Climate change.
Bro,
Climate change.
It's all gay race communism.
Exactly, but they do an effective job of raising money individually for all of these different organizations. What I wish would happen on the right is that we had as good of interest groups fundraising money like this to effectively battle them. So there needs to be people who care about, I mean, there's every issue across the board, but gun rights, caring about immigration and closing our borders. We need to raise funds to have PACs to donate to candidates who support those issues. And they're very, very organized in how they do this stuff. I mean, I guess we do, Republicans raise a ton of money for anti-abortion stuff.
I mean, I would just like to be able to Venmo ICE. That would be nice. Just to slide a little.
Why do you think? Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm gonna
Why
jump
do you
story,
think
so.
it is that the right has such a hard time with that? So I've always pointed out, like in my lifetime, at any place that I've lived, I've only ever had door knockers come to my door that are campaigning for left-wing organizations or campaigns. I've never had anybody on the right.
Oh, what about missionaries?
No,
That's not a joke.
Yeah, that's true.
never.
I think
So let me just clarify this. The legal function of a 501c3 is supposed to be a secular version of church. Churches were tax exempt. They had certain rules, and 501c3 was basically like, okay, if you're, because of freedom of religion, we will create advocacy groups for other ideological causes that function similarly. That's why they always say churches can't, engage in politics from the pulpit or whatever. So there needs to be more. I guess the issue is this. This is the point I'm making. Christians of all different backgrounds. Even, I know there's some controversy, or I guess now over Mormons and other Christian groups. I've had them come to my door quite a bit.
Yeah.
And they talk about their moral worldview, but it's overtly a religion. We recognize this. When the left comes, it's not different. They're espousing values of their non-theistic religion. The issue is that what you're talking about, Brett, I think is, or I should say, Elaad, where's the moderate, pro-America, meritocratic-based
PACs and organizations
right.
trying to advance that. I mean, I guess we're Turning Point USA was doing the best job of that, but the left really effectively took Charlie Kirk off the board. Brett, to answer your question, though, why I think this is more prevalent on the left and not the right is because at the core of, I feel like, right-wingers' ideology is like an individualism. And it's like the idea of coming together and trying to work with others to try to like accomplish something big and like get into the like this big commune. It sounds like communism, and I think right-wingers think that's kind of gay, as opposed to people on the left where it's like, oh, let's find somebody to like raise money for to try to achieve a goal together, and let's all work together. And I feel like that's a very left-wing type idea. So naturally, it flows that they'd want to organize more than a right-winger would.
Yeah.
A right-winger would say, hey, I think I could do this on my own and fight this on my own. Like, I want to be my own boss. Like, I don't want to have be somebody else's employee. On the left, they're like, let's all hold hands and, we're all equal. And I'll give you a ton of my money, try to go accomplish something.
Or if they would try to start building some type of coalition, they'd start arguing about it and then wouldn't get around to the actual building.
Well, beyond that, too, it's like the left for 30, 40 years now, 50, 60 years now, has provided like a vision for how they want the country to be reoriented, how it wants to be structured. And so that gave leftists and just like people in the left broadly something to buy into, something to organize around. Where the right, it really wasn't until Trump that a vision was provided for America. For 60 years, the Republican Party was like, let's just slow them down.
There's just like one quick thing about this about like leftist NGOs. A lot of them started with good intentions. Okay. So like one company I exposed, La Colaborativa, they started to help immigrants. Here's the problem. On the left, we changed the definition of immigrant and we just refer to illegal immigrants as immigrants. Yep. And it's awful because people like my father who came to the country legally, waited, fled communism, contributed, is now being described as the same way as someone who hopped the border and is trafficking drugs.
I can tell you the big problem with nonprofits. Nonprofits are supposed to go out of business. They are not businesses. They identify a problem and then request your assistance to stop said problem. So let's say the problem is plastic pollution, right? You're a nonprofit and you got started because you're like, plastic is a problem.
Your slogan is death to plastic.
And your slogan is death to plastic. And so you are soliciting donations to end plastic pollution. The goal being at a certain point, there should no longer be plastic pollution. Let's say, hypothetically, in this world, one day, a new synthetic material is developed which eliminates the needs for plastics. As these things happen, like plastics came about replacing glass and metal containers. So let's say one day they're like, revolution, plastic is now being phased out. This nonprofit has 1,000 employees, 37 offices across the country. They have to bring in $8 million a year just to sustain it. Do you think they're going to go, guess I lost my job now? Do you think the executive director who's getting paid $1 million a year is going to be like, I'm going to fire 1,000 employees? No. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to find something else to complain about. They're going to find some other reason. Oh, I got an idea. Let's talk about Greenpeace. You guys know Greenpeace?
No.
Really? Greenpeace is like the leftist nonprofit. They got started because there was a small handful of people who got a boat and opposed nuclear testing, nuclear bombs being detonated in the ocean. And so they would bring their boats into the fray and sit there so the tests could not be done. And they got a bunch of donations for it. Now, you name an environmental cause, they're against it. Just pick one. You've got the issue of whaling, I guess. They're against nuclear energy, even though nuclear energy is emission-free and the cleanest energy we have.
Even something like homelessness is literally not solved because the incentives are all off. They're not incentivized to fix the problem.
Yeah.
So that's just,
Yep. Why solve any of these problems? It's funny because it's the same thing as Big Pharma. If they cure your disease, they're out of business.
I think also, like, now that I think about it more than anything, like I said, all the door knockers that have ever come to my home they're always young adults. They're very idealistic, and that same sense of idealism doesn't necessarily exist on the right. It's a form of pragmatism towards the future, that they want an idealistic future, but they have too pragmatic of a worldview to really buy into that. So it's easier to sell people on the idea of hope than it is to actually sell them a realistic plan.
It's easier to sell people on free shit than sell people on like individual responsibility.
Gentlemen, many of you may have wondered why our number one is not here, Phil Labonte, and why Tate was filling in. I am currently peeling some foil off of a bottle of bubbly, which says, pop and cheer when baby Labonte is here. As Phil Labonte has just super chatted, I'm at the hospital. Sarah's water just broke, and we're about to welcome our first son to the world. By the time you read this, he will likely already be here. Thanks for all the prayers and well wishes. Congratulations, Phil and Sarah. I am going to pop open this delicious bubbly. If I can. There we go. Don't spill on me. And we don't have any glasses, do we?
No.
We're taking swigs out the bottle. Let's
I can
go.
chug this real quick. We're waterfalling? Let's go.
Waterfalling.
Phil,
Bless you
cheers. Mazel tov on your baby. Hopefully the first of many, repopulating the country. Let's go. Congratulations to you. Take as much time as you need off, buddy.
Are you not waterfalling it? Did you?
Dude, your nasty lips on there?
Foul.
Yeah.
Already foul.
COVID 25 or something.
If you wouldn't like some. No pressure.
Phil, I don't know you, but you seem like a great guy. So.
You know, he's a rock star. He's
Platinum.
what's the band name? I should.
All that remains. Oh, no one's waterfalling. You guys are all just basically kissing each other.
We're men. We're
practicing for hex.
Once you do
Alcohol,
Yeah,
I
who
cannot drink it,
cares?
but Phil, Sarah, congratulations.
Let's go.
Have some chocolate Numa.
What do we got here?
I got my...
There we go. Congratulations, Phil. Take as much time as you need. We'll see you when you're back.
Salute, Phil.
You're gonna snob Serge. Wow.
Phil is. Oh yeah. Wait, Serge, bottoms up, dude. Just polish it off, man. This is for Phil.
Let's go.
Hey, Phil,
I'm
I want you to
done.
drink more.
I take next. You next.
Yes, Phil, I love you. You're the best. And you've changed my entire perspective on the left lane. Like, before I came here, I was kind of ambivalent.
It's not for crime anymore. He's going to have to drive slow now.
Welcome to the world, new patriot. We have a lot of work to do. We got to save America. So as soon as you can, like, talk and walk, let's get to work.
Have you door knocking for Republican causes?
That's right.
I love that he did the meme. My wife's pregnant, about to give birth.
had to do
watching Timcast IRL while your wife's in labor.
It's the meme, the most important thing you can do. Let's jump to this next story from the New York Post. This is wild. CBS News boss Barry Weiss seen with bodyguards amid heightened security concerns. We actually have another story I want to talk to you about as well after this, but we're starting here. Laura Loomer. Someone also got arrested for threatening to murder her, and she's got a police detail. But we'll start with Barry Weiss. Newly installed CBS News editor-in-chief Barry Weiss had a phalanx of 6 bodyguards. Okay, I wish it were true she had a phalanx. Could you imagine how cool that would be? Like Spartan-looking dudes with big shields, shoulder to shoulder, marching. That's not what happened. In New York, she had guards described as beefy and chiseled as she attended a conference the New York Historical Society put on by private equity giant Redbird Capital. The source of the detail was hired because there are enhanced security concerns. It's highly unusual for a news executive to have 6 bodyguards, a former network exec told the Post. Now, I'm gonna give you my gosh darn honest opinion of Bari Weiss. I believe she's a fair bit of vanilla pudding, and I mean that only a little derisively. Honestly, I have no beef with Bari. I think she's great. I think she does good work. I think she's a little vanilla. I don't think she pushes back hard enough, but she pushes back a little bit. And so I should actually say I'm being a little bit too mean. I think Bari pushes back a decent amount on the establishment, and so I'm willing to accept that. And if this is displacing the corporate media establishment to any degree, we will accept it. I would much prefer Bari Weiss to represent the American liberal faction than currently whatever woke garbage is. That being said, take a look at the security that she has. I'm going to pull up this graph about viewpoint diversity. Viewpoint diversity, left and right.
You'd be like one of those guys with the fake arms, so they got the hand inside on the concealed weapon.
Here's this image from Reddit that, let's see if I can make it bigger. You may have seen it. I've talked about it quite a bit. And this is where we get to the point about why Bari Weiss needs security. This whole red bubble right here, that's actually the left and the right. That is America. The left right here is the far left. And the right over here are the moderate conservatives. And the fringe element is probably up and down because it doesn't, the left and the right on this quadrant doesn't literally mean left and right. Or actually, I'm sorry, left actually does. But you can see, I'm assuming they're going authoritarian, libertarian. If you were to get rid of, I wonder if I can, it's not going to let me zoom in, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think so. Red's stupid. If you were to get rid of the blue faction here, just hack it off completely, this red network represents America where Bari Weiss is on the left of it. Which means to this weird death cult on the left, this blue cluster, she's far right. So even though a lot of people are going to claim that she's a liberal, that she's barely better than woke, they want her dead. And that is insane of what this country has come to. And that's why I'm like, good, I'm glad Bari's succeeding because we want her to represent liberal. I mean, she's spoken out against the weird woke stuff. We still think she's liberal and we disagree with some of the things she says, but it's America. It's tolerable.
What does that say about the state of the country that Bari Weiss, who, is fairly centrist, I would say, needs an intense security detail like this? I mean, that just shows you how crazy the temperature has gotten.
Insane the left is.
Right.
You know what I will add, too? The first thing I'll say is, in no reality is, again, people might take this as an insult or whatever. I don't care if you do. In no reality is the free press worth $150 million. However, I will consider the possibility, nay, the likelihood that CBS is so out of its mind with ineptitude, having no idea what to do. They saw that she had a relatively small but successful media outlet and said, we want it. She said no. They said, we'll give you $50 million. She said no. They said, we'll give you 70. She goes, I'm not selling. Then they said, what if we give you 100? And she goes, no, I'm not going to sell 150. And she went, okay, fine, I guess. I think that's probably what happened because the numbers don't add up. Now, a lot of people think it's a conspiracy. I think the reality is just legacy media is dying. As we've discussed already with the Pentagon press corps, they don't know what to do. So why is free press worth 150? It's not, but they're desperate.
Well, there's also a massive amount of consolidation going on at these companies. They said CBS is Paramount. Paramount just merged with Skydance, and Paramount just put in an offer to buy Warner Brothers and was turned down because David Zaslav saw the stock spike after he turned them down, and now Comcast wants to buy. So all of these companies are consolidating down further. And what is David Zaslav doing? He's like, let's try and relaunch CNN as a streaming service.
He's doing that again?
Like they're relaunching, CNN.
I got to be honest. If they hire me to do it, I could save CNN.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would do is I'd fire everyone.
Right.
You should apply there. See if they take you.
The funny
Editor-in-chief.
LinkedIn COO. Yeah, I'll apply.
It's funny because I like Fox News, but I even feel like they're not good.
Well, even when you said Mockingbird Media before, it's like, why do you think CNN and Fox rubbed shoulders at the press briefings before? Because they're all kind of part of that same old guard.
I got to be fair to Fox News, though. I mean, Jesse Waters really hits the establishment pretty aggressive.
He's no Tucker, though.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
That's the point, right? You have the one voice who does that, and you have the other 9 voices that seem to maybe not parrot the line, but definitely.
I would say there's Fox News' reporting is fairly vanilla pudding. Brett Baer, I think, is great. You watch his stuff and you're like, oh, you know what I mean? Like he said a thing that happened. You watch Jesse Waters on the 5, and did you see Gutfeld just going after Tarlov after Charlie got assassinated? Mm-hmm. Gutfeld was not having it. So you've got Gutfeld and Jesse Waters at Fox, and I think they actually do a very good job of calling out the lies and the manipulations.
You know, you keep saying vanilla pudding like it's a bad thing. Frankly, I like my vanilla pudding.
Whoa. Why did you take it that way, Elaad?
Because
vanilla is delicious.
Yeah.
I'm saying that there's a distinction between when you walk into a grocery store and they've got 800 brands of vanilla, of course we like it. Everybody likes vanilla pudding. But sometimes you've got a brand of pudding which is butterscotch caramel fudge swirl with peanut butter on top. And maybe you don't want it. Vanilla pudding just means it's not crazy. Like Jesse Waters is not vanilla pudding. You know what I mean? Like Brett Baer does a good job. That's what I'm saying. Vanilla pudding is delicious. Maybe you want to add wafer cookies.
I'll just say I like vanilla pudding. Read into that what you will. Back to the Barry Weiss story, though. Her having 6 security guards is the norm given our current political climate. I think there was just a DOJ indictment against somebody threatening the life of Hakeem Jeffries. There was just a DOJ indictment.
That was like
somebody
a Trump supporter
threatening,
guy, wasn't it?
Somebody, he was pardoned for his involvement in January 6th.
Right.
Then there's also a DOJ indictment for somebody threatening to kill Laura Loomer and a couple of other right-wing Zionist people. Of course, we're coming off the heels of the murder of Charlie Kirk. Outside of the Israeli embassy in D.C., we saw the murder of the 2 Israeli embassy workers. We also saw Josh Shapiro's home be firebombed.
Multiple
Luigi
times?
Mangione, of course. This is just off the top of my head. So if this will be the norm moving forward. Your legislators, the lawmakers, the political commentators are now living in fear because the norm is to threaten to murder and kill them.
Look, okay, so a couple of weeks ago, somebody posted a picture of like Barack Obama and Mitt Romney at one of the debates and said like this was the last time politics felt like it had some decorum to it. And all the comments were like they called him a Nazi too, right? But the difference was back then it was a more extreme part of the left's faction, whereas now you just have the mainstream politicians saying the same thing. So the whole of the party has shifted.
If someone were to get killed in the political space, nobody would be surprised.
Yep.
Everybody's on the table. If they were able to get shots on the president, it's fair game for everybody. And I think, unfortunately, the more violence that we're seeing, it will beget more violence. And we're still in the throes of it. More is still to come. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
This is my point about vanilla pudding. Okay, it means it's not the fringe. It means it's the normal,
The mainstream.
When Barry Weiss, who is vanilla pudding, it's not an insult. It just means that she's not like dressed up like a clown, running around doing weird things. She's running like she launched a newsroom. The newsroom, when you read the articles, are extremely straightforward. She built up a subscriber base. I don't see mathematically how it's worth $150 million, but I can see culturally why CBS would be like, we're desperate. Mm-hmm. 6 bodyguards. They said there's a heightened security situation, and it's like when Barry Weiss has to have security to this degree, something. Like it is bad out there.
Is the value in it perhaps that so maybe it's not worth $150 million, but with the election of Donald Trump, a lot of these media organizations definitely tried to pull themselves back towards closer to the middle, that they saw the value in it in being a more moderate, middle of the road outlet, that she could bring some type of moderation back to the name recognition.
This is not the way politics flows.
I'm talking from the media.
Yeah,
side
it doesn't
not
work.
From the...
No, this is political. Yeah. CBS is considered untrustworthy. Barry Weiss joining CBS doesn't change their trustworthiness. What it says to me is that CBS has literally no idea what to do, so they were desperate and they bought free press.
Maybe they're thinking ahead, though. They're like, look, her journalism in the past looks like it's middle down the road, and she can foster an environment for a newsroom that will be middle down the road and rebuild trust down the line. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen. I'm saying, is that something that an executive...
Best case scenario.
It's like when
but maybe in the sense that they said, Barry, would you like to run our news division because our woke institution has failed? And she said, no, because I have mine. and then she was only willing to sell unless it went for a ridiculous number.
Well, I think it's just like when an NBA team has just had like disastrous luck, and then they just go into free agency and just pay like a wash player like a supermax contract. That's what's going on here. They're just like, dude, okay, just pay him. Like, I don't know, maybe this will spark, and then you get saddled with this terrible contract. That's kind of what's going on. There's just a lot of dumb money right now. They're collapsing, they're panicking, and they just chuck some money at this aging superstar, and maybe we'll win a championship or something, and it never works out. But
I think like you made an earlier.
Nate, get a little closer.
I'm sorry. I think you made an earlier point about how like I think there's less money now in just bashing Trump 24/7. I think that's evident with Joy Reid being fired from MSNBC and several other anchors on MSNBC. And I think honestly, I think Barry Weiss is probably the best thing for Democrats maybe ever in the last 5 years, because I think there are so many people on the left who feel politically homeless. There are so many people on the left, and I talk to them on the streets, they hate Trump, but they also don't want to transition minors and have no borders.
Yeah, but they hate Trump for no real reason is the problem.
I don't disagree with that, but they hate him. Like, that's how they feel. So my point being is that Barry Weiss,
even retards vote.
Barry Weiss restores the 2004 Democrat Party.
You're trying to speak to the Michael Rappaports of the world who like hate Trump, but they're like, but the rest of the stuff is insane.
Oh, bro, like Michael, brother. I've DM'd him a little bit. I think he's hilarious. I just think we were talking with Graham Linehan about how he was attacking even Dankula, and now he's kind of come to his senses, realizing they were lying to him. I think Michael will come around too, and he can hate Trump forever. He can make fun of Trump. We've always been okay with
He
that.
softened on that too because of what he saw, the anti-Semitism coming from the left.
Bro, the left moving forward, you make a great point. They are going to just be, their only unifying principle is going to be that they don't like Jews. And I'm not being cute about Israel. No, I mean quite literally, they don't have any policies on the left. But we got this tweet from Crystal Ball. This is hilarious. For me personally, I'll take the candidate with a regrettable tattoo over one who has steadfastly supported a genocide. Graham Plattner's Nazi Totenkopf tattoo, the death's head, was used by the Nazi SS division responsible for running concentration camps. Holy what?
This person has influence?
Oh, bro, she's got a massive podcast.
She would never extend this benefit of the doubt to any Republican candidate. These people lack any principle. There's no consistency. And I think that's the issue with people like this.
yeah, like when
They're nakedly partisan. I
when
mean,
Pete Hegseth had his Days Volt tattoo, and they were like, he's going to use the Pentagon to like start a new crusade. It's like, first of all, it'd be base, but second of all, like, what are we doing here? Like, this is absolutely nakedly.
No, the
partisan.
response is, "Oh, come on, we wish."
Yeah, we're going to do 3 or 4.
That's awful. When?
Yeah, that's terrible.
Crusade.
But the thing to that point is like, it's like when I point it all the time. It's like when you point out like the accounts like Defiant L's, which I think ended up being like foreign influence anyways. But the point is, it shows you all of the hypocrisy. It doesn't matter. That's the point. Like, they don't have any intellectual or moral consistency because power doesn't equate to that.
you just know Crystal Ball believes people are Nazis for a lot less.
The point is, there's a guy with the literal Totenkopf. It's the actual Nazi tattoo on his chest. He got it removed, by the way, but he had it for 18 years. It was not something that looked like it. It was it. And Crystal Ball is like, I'm totally fine with the guy who, for 18 years, had this Nazi tattoo on his chest and never got it removed.
Because he now parrots my beliefs.
Because he's anti-Israel.
These are the same people who, when Elon Musk did his hello gesture, were convinced. Ryan Graham, Crystal Ball were convinced that this was, an overture to Nazis, or they're trying to ingratiate themselves with Nazi. But no, a literal Nazi tattoo is just like, oh no, come on, guys! Like, it's just he was younger. It's just a skull and crossbones. What are you guys talking about? Elon Musk. No, we could read into his intentions with his arm wave. But no, for this guy with the literal Nazi iconography, it's like, oh no, we'll give this guy a pass. And why? It's because he's running against a Bernie Sanders type in the Senate in Maine. I will say this.
He's a self-proclaimed communist, Antifa, and anti-Israel.
I will say this. He is definitely only trying to get ahead of the Oppo research now. That's why he addressed this on Pod Save America, because they knew that this Oppo research was being shopped around. The primary isn't until next summer, I believe in June. So this is his political strategy of trying to get out ahead of it. And he's hoping in 8 or 9 months, nobody's going to give a crap. That's what's going on here, by the way.
Bro,
that's
the
his
left
political
is defending
calculus.
him now.
Totally. Yeah.
That's insane.
But he's thinking it's better for it to come out now than in 10 months. Also, one other funny funny part about this story is that this guy actually also was involved with like training Antifa people on how to shoot guns. If you want to pull up that story, he has an Antifa flag while he's shooting with people like doing furry ears.
He's somehow both a Nazi and a communist at the same time.
It's mass appeal. You know,
Gotta
build a
wonder.
broad coalition. You know,
What's the
Big Ten.
consistent strand?
Both ends of the horseshoe together at last.
Yeah, the
Wait,
horseshoe
so
party.
He hates Jews, but he's not a Nazi. Wait, what?
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think he
It's
was
so
just looking for a
discombobulated.
kosher way to hate Jews. It was
Yeah.
like it's not acceptable to hate Jews via being a Nazi.
I-
but on the
guy that
far
hates
left, you
Jews
could
so
be
much, he
I
becomes a
think-
communist.
I think it's actually this simple. I think there are a lot of guys who are neo-Nazis who hated Jews, and they realized it's socially acceptable on the left, so they should join the left because the left, that's the one thing they care about.
Fuentes would get away with a lot more of his rhetoric if he came out as a commie. If he was a Hassan Piker
Yeah.
type.
You know,
Yeah.
the streets are
Get away with
calling
a
this
lot more.
the woke Reich. That's what their streets are calling it.
I mean, the use of the term Nazi was one of the it's a dumb play by the left, because I went to the Tesla takedown protests and I spoke to people that were on the outer edges of the protest. Okay, people who were like, I hate that Elon is a part of the administration, but I want to support this. And I was like, how do you feel about the term Nazi? He's like, oh no, I hate it. But here it is, the crowd's like chanting, right? So this guy is just a normal liberal, you know, like vanilla pudding liberal, whatever you want to call it. And he's just like, no, I hate this. And then I spoke to someone who's trans, and she was like, yeah, the Democrat Party, they need to get their shit together and whatever. So the left just doesn't have a single message like the right does right now. It's rough for them.
Well, the right doesn't really have a single message either, but the right doesn't have the threat of force against you for defying. So what happens is America Fest says, Timcast, do your show on stage. And then you end up with someone as crazy as Ian, who I don't even understand what his idea. He's pro-death penalty. He wants to spread democracy around, but he looks like a hippie who talks about DMT and graphene. And he's actually debating. Then you got Luke, an anarchist or whatever Luke describes himself as. You've got me, more of a moderate. And you've got Charlie. All these different views having a discussion and a debate, because that's why I say that red cluster was America. The left and the right is there. We agree we love America. America is a constitutional republic. We have disagreements. We agree to go on stage. We agree to have these conversations. The left says, if you defy us, you're a right-wing troll. You're the enemy, and you'll be shut out.
Right, but my only rebuttal to that is that I think if you got a round table of like every faction of the right, whatever, most would agree, if not all would agree, we should close the border. The left,
Agreed.
the only thing they can agree on is that they hate Trump.
But but that's my point.
Yeah.
Everybody who is pro the Constitutional Republic of America thinks America should have a border. That's what defines support for America. So that's what I'm saying. You can have a pro-choice, pro-universal health care, progressive tax individual debating an economic laissez-faire, capitalist who is a moral traditionalist. And then when they're like, but we love America. We're just trying to figure out what America should be. When you ask basic things like, should America have borders? They go, well, of course. Otherwise, what is America? The left says, burn it all down, destroy it all.
That's why they've started re-implementing American flags at their protests and stuff like that. Like somebody sent them a memo. They're like, you're like losing out a lot of business by having communist flags, but not even any American flags.
Yeah, well, that's the big tension is like Plattner. All that there's a lot of aesthetic variation on the left. So Plattner is like the tough hick lib, like, hey, don't misgender my daughter. But it's like still just like a rebranding of the same ideas. And then you got like Zoran eating with his hands, and then you got like Bernie, he's like a communist. So they have a variation in aesthetics, but like fundamentally they're just trying to repackage the same garbage ideas. On the right, there's actually kind of more of like an aesthetic, it's like concise, but you get a vast variation in ideology.
And when it comes to their large-scale ideas, they're forced to fall in line anyways, like especially as the far left gains more control in the party, right? So how many of there was a time when they believed that like Nancy Pelosi and like the old school Democrats were going to be able to keep the new left, well, not the new left, but the new leftists in line in the party. But now if you don't fall in line with climate change, if you don't fall in line with open borders, if you won't willingly misinterpret the idea of illegal immigrant as just an immigrant, then you are an enemy to the party. So yeah, they do all coalesce around the idea that they hate Trump, but Trump is just the figurehead for, which is like what Tim said earlier, gay race communism.
Bro, did you guys see Nick Shirley's video where he asks the guy holding up the sign, do you think illegal immigrants should be deported? You see this one?
Yeah.
And the guy goes, illegal? Yes. And the one next to him goes, whoa. And then he looks at her like, what? And she's like... And then Nick's like, do
I
you
just break
think
them up?
illegal immigrants should be deported? And she goes, they're not illegal.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, he says they should be. And then the guy's like, well, and then Nick asks him, he's like, if someone enters the country illegally, should they be deported? And the guy goes, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, like we've harped on this issue,
Actually,
but
I should play that video.
It is an unbelievably powerful tool to misconstrue language on purpose. Because first of all, 75% of the people are normies who don't know what you're talking about and will not look into it any further. The rest of them know that using the wrong term is a way to wield power over people because they will not understand the difference.
Let me play this clip from Nick Shirley. Let's see if we can get the audio playing, right? There we go.
Deportation of illegal immigrants?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
Okay. She's saying she doesn't.
If they're illegal, then yeah.
Do you not support the deportation of illegal migrants? And why not? He does and you don't.
It's not illegal.
Okay. If someone crossed over the border illegally, should they be deported?
I'm not too sure about that.
Hope I didn't just ruin their relationship.
The top comment says when you fake political ideology to riz the huzz.
Real.
Bro.
You know, this guy came legally, and he's like, nah, you need to come in here legally, brother. That's what this guy's thinking.
It is like the changing of the definitions of things, and also changing the definition of things and inventing new words. So what's difficult for the left is that they can't have camaraderie around a message because they keep inventing new terminology. So like one protester that I exposed, she teaches gender expansive youth, right? That term should not exist. It shouldn't exist. So now people on the left have to be like, okay, they have to learn what that is, and then they have to figure out a way to support it. You know, it's just tough.
Yeah.
It's like when you use if you have to argue with somebody about the idea of racism, you have a completely definition of the idea of racism than somebody who learned that term in college.
Yeah.
Well,
Or simple things like just changing homeless to houseless.
Yeah.
You know,
or
just those little
unhoused.
things.
I say house retard.
right.
That's a Casey Sharnima joke, but I don't know if she intended to create a phrase that is offensive, but I'm gonna use it.
Yeah, even like their their boiler point, they don't even have agreement on like defund the police, and like Zoran advocated for that, and then he got pressed on it, and he's like, yeah, I'm actually not gonna fire any cops, and then had all this then he had all this vitriol like to his left, and I'm like, dude, this guy's like basically a socialist, and even that they're still like purity testing him, like it's so ridiculous what's going on.
I do think there are fractures in the Democrat Party that are irreparable, like on a handful of issues. I think we will be seeing a major realignment in the Democrat Party and maybe even in the Republican Party. But the Democrat right now is not cohesive. The Democrat Party is not cohesive, and I don't think it's tenable, like as a group, for them to stay together.
And but like just one like quick thing is that's where Barry Weiss comes in, is because my point about the gender expansive youth. So I know like people will watch a video of mine and they might be on the left and they'll see that I expose someone who teaches gender expansive youth and they'll say, look, I don't like Trump, but I can turn to someone like Barry Weiss who is on the left who doesn't agree with the term gender expansive youth. That's what I mean by the rescue mission that she's.
But you
pulling.
can't salvage the Democratic Party. I agree with you, but look at what Newsom, Pritzker, and these other people vying for power do. They're going to pander to these crackpots.
Well, I think it's these three issues that are seriously fracturing the Democrat Party. It's the trans stuff, it's the immigration and open borders, and then Israel. Those are like the three main factors that you will find people in the same party on opposite sides of. And that's some of the biggest questions that our politics are frankly dealing with right now. So that is what will continue to be unsustainable in the Democrat Party. We're going to see more primaries largely built around these issues in the Democrat Party. And hopefully the Republicans can use it to their benefit.
Let's jump to the story from Newsweek. Who is Nicholas Ray, Texas man arrested over Laura Loomer death threats? And we have this report from the Telegraph. Laura Loomer given police protection amid anti-Semitic death threats. This is crazy. Check this out. A Texas man has been arrested for making death threats to media figures, including Laura Loomer. Posting on X, Florida Attorney General James Outmire said his office had obtained an arrest warrant for Nicholas Ray of Spring, Texas, after it was notified of multiple specific death threats made to Jewish conservative media members who live in Florida. Loomer revealed she was one of the people who had been targeted in another post on X. Newsweek reached out to Loomer in the Florida Attorney General's office by email for comment on the story, whatever. Threats come at a time of heightened worries. This we understand. I've certainly talked about it. You get it. Writing on X, Loomer said she had received credible threats made against her life and the lives of several Jewish and pro-Israel conservatives. She said the threats were targeted at Jewish Trump-supporting conservatives who lived in Florida. I became one of Nicholas Ray's targets because he was radicalized by the false accusations that I'm a foreign agent. And then he proceeded to make a serious and credible threat against my life. We have this from the Telegraph. They say police have been stationed outside right-wing influencer Laura Loomer's home after she received anti-Semitic death threats. Ms. Loomer, one of Trump's most loyal attack dogs outside of his administration, was among several Jewish figures in Florida who had been subject to a barrage of online threats and abuse. I will just stress, the left just held their No Kings protest. Hassan Piker has gone on the ground to various protests. The right cannot do this. Prominent right-wing conservatives live under 24/7 armed guard because of what the left has threatened against them and what they've actually carried out. The current state of this country is that the left is a psychotic faction of violent, terroristic ideologues. And I'm sorry, I am not playing these stupid games where liberals are like, well, not me. Yeah, well, when you got teachers pointing at their neck and going bang, bang, nurses, accountants jumping up and down, cheering for Charlie Kirk's death, when an accountant from Atlanta drives to rural North Carolina and tries to murder a Trump supporter he's never met just for being a Trump supporter, this is the left. And if you find yourself concerned that you're being lumped in with these people, maybe you should leave the left.
Tim, I wanted to ask you something. I'm not trying to do any guilt by association, but allegedly Nicholas Ray, this guy was only following 5 people on Twitter. 1, Candace Owens, 2, APAC Tracker, 3, Paul Miller. It's this like guy who dresses like as a clown and says the N-word on Twitter a bunch and like TikTok. And then Israel Exposed and Martin Talk Cowboys, but only those 5 accounts.
Yeah, well, what is
No,
it?
do you make anything of that?
That he was tracking APAC Tracker or whatever?
No, that these were the 5 accounts that he was following. Like, that's it on Twitter.
Well, what does that mean?
No, I'm asking you, do you think that means anything?
Like, do you mean
not
like
from
do
what
they
you just said, I don't
like
understand.
is it influencing how he sees the world?
Well, that would be the presumption, yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not blaming Candace Owens or APAC Tracker for why this person decided to send threats to Laura Loomer and other right-wing Zionists, but it seems as though something on Twitter might have made this person think or informed him on some things that might have led him astray like this.
The Israel stuff is getting real hot as well. It's like this new division again.
It's like you said, like
Well,
there's
it's
a
been hot ever
reckoning-
since that guy lit himself on fire in D.C., right?
Or when that guy firebombed those people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was that, in Colorado?
I forgot that happened.
Oh yeah.
What?
Or like when Josh Shapiro's governor's mansion got firebombed.
And something else, didn't that happen to him twice, or something else happened to him last year?
It happened on, I think it was a Jewish holiday.
Yeah, but like there is a reckoning coming from both parties with with Israel, right?
Yeah,
like as the next
yeah.
generation comes in, there's less and less support.
What if-
and
What if we just changed the name to like Schmizrael and then said it's gone? There's no more Israel.
I hate to make this, I don't want to turn this into an Israel episode. Nobody wants to hear the Jewish sob stories, but I think people are spurging out a little bit about the Jews on Twitter. Is that a crazy thing to say?
Bro,
that people are spurging out on Twitter?
It's fair to say they've been sparking out for a very, very long time about the Jews. There was a funny super chat where someone was like, did you guys notice the sunset a little bit weirder today? Jews?
Yeah.
Well, I was hopeful too, because for a little while Candace Owens was blaming this stuff on the Frankists, which, dude, I'm Jewish. I don't know what the Frankists are. Apparently there's like a little sect of people who like, I don't know,
pretty sure they're
bridged
Jewish.
off. I don't know. But I was hoping that
I heard
shift
she's
in the
blaming.
blame.
I heard she's blaming Turning Point USA for killing Charlie now. Is that true?
Well, there are a lot of Jews that work there, huh?
Is that true?
Yeah, I'm sure there are.
I think it's yeah. I don't know.
Or Christian
I don't-
Zionists.
I don't think
just
so.
as bad. Christian
I don't
Zionists.
think. I don't think TPUSA has Jews working there. I think it's a Christian.
Trying to think.
Yeah, it's like Liberty students.
I'm pretty sure they're all Christians.
Yeah, they're all Christians. Yeah.
Maybe that's where they went wrong.
Look,
huh?
it could be.
You think they're hiring?
I'm the Israel, Gaza, like maybe a third party should come in. Like I think the Christians should admit that. I'm just saying, like we could give us a crack.
Are you
I got an
telling me
idea.
More foreign
wait.
wars? Is that what
No,
we're
no,
doing?
hold on. I think I can solve the Israel Gaza thing right now. We need a third party involved in the whole thing. So let's carve out more land, put it between Gaza and Israel, a third area,
I like it.
and give it and we'll put a another.
I say it should be the UN. It should be.
Is that Mara
no.
Gaza?
We got to do like Taoists or something.
No, it should be a rotating seat every year. The UN just like pulls it like a rabbit out of a hat, and it's like, okay, Thailand, you're in charge this year. Good luck.
Guys, we don't need three
Nobody
powers.
wants it. They get like oh.
It's like, oh, the Marshall Islands are in charge. Oh, this is gonna be a
We
disaster.
don't need 3 powers in the area. We don't need 2 powers in the area. We need 1. We need one undivided Israel from the river to the sea in the Middle East. That will be the peaceful solution here. That's what will maintain and allow for long-term peace to exist in the Middle East. We need to get rid of these pipe dreams of a Palestinian state. It will never happen. Israelis will not allow it. Maybe this kind of talk is what's driving Nicholas Ray crazy. I guess I'm happy that I'm kind of irrelevant. Where
I mean,
don't get
the
serious stuff
issue
like
is
that.
how long the war has been going on. Because like if we look back at other wars throughout history that last a few years, I mean look at like Texas breaking off from Mexico or whatever, or the Mexican American War, we basically took California. It was a few years and then it's over, and then everyone's like, yep, the land is gone. But when you have 70 years of this conflict, it's never going to stop.
We're not letting the Jews finish the job. We have to let the Jews finish the job of killing all of the terrorists that are in the Palestinian territories.
So this is actually
we need them to be completely neutered. We can't tie one hand behind their back and do a ceasefire and then trade 20 for 2,000 prisoners. Israel got back 20 living hostages and they gave back 2,000 Palestinian prisoners, including 200 that have blood on their hands. Look, I thought Jews are supposed to get the best fucking deals around, right? This deal is retarded. It's the worst deal I could imagine. It is not sustainable. We are incentivizing hostage taking by giving them numbers like this.
I thought you guys are good at deals and negotiating.
Me too, and I thought the president was too. And I wanted to tell him, I kind of think, Tim, 20 for 2,000.
Elaad. Here's what we're going to do. Trump's going to go in. He's going to take all the Palestinians. He's going to bring them all to, where did you say, the Marshall Islands?
That could be an option.
All right, then.
Random every year.
While they're temporarily having their beautiful vacation, is it nice there?
It's probably, I think we have a base.
Then we're going to build Mara Gaza.
Yep.
And there's going to be a Ferris wheel, a port. There's going to be kebab on kebab fast food, and there's going to be sticky rice.
Look like
street
Atlantic
vendors.
City.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like that.
And then they all come back, and they have nice houses, and everyone's happy.
They asked like James.
And there will be no Hamas.
I think we could just take all the people that are a problem and just push them somewhere else.
Oh, like, didn't Giuliani do that with the homeless people in New York?
Yeah.
Yeah, he put them all in a bus and just
bus
shipped
into
them
Harlem.
Somewhere else.
Enough. You're going to the Bronx.
Serious issued people. It's like it's quite simple.
You know what's funny is that
problem people need to be removed.
That's what they do in Chicago. That's like a very common
They
solution.
bust them out of state, right?
Well, in Chicago, when there was, like I talked about the gang neighborhood, LeClaire Courts, the city just said, bulldoze all the houses, and then we don't care what happens. And then what they did was all these people that were all the gangbangers went to Joliet. So it's like, it's not Chicago anymore, so it ain't our problem.
They asked like James Gunn, like if when he saw Superman, right? And they were like,
Peacemaker sucked.
You saw Superman, and they were like, did you make this movie? Like, was this supposed to be a commentary on Israel and Gaza? He's like, well, actually, I wrote this movie before the writer's strike. I made this movie before the war in Gaza. They're like, you made this movie before 1948.
Yeah, is that what they said?
So what?
Is that what they said?
That people on Twitter were like, you made this movie before 1948.
It was funny though, because after I saw Superman, people were like, it was clearly Israel and Palestine, and I was like, it was Indians and Eastern Europeans.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't see. It was
like
it was
a-
not.
Okay, so they did give the one dude he had the hot female soldier. So I thought that was a nod to the IDF.
Yeah, and didn't he get a bagel while he was like going through the portal?
Is that what it was?
Yeah, I think it was a bagel. Like he really wanted the bagel.
So I will just say that the season finale of Peacemaker was one of the worst things I've ever seen, and it was terrible. Episode 7 was probably closer to a finale, but James Gunn really screwed up Augie's death, and I'm disappointed in the show.
No, he can't. He can't keep it out of the TV shows. He's better at doing movies.
He was doing really, like, season 1 is great, and then season 2 was pretty good. Was a little wild and all over the place, and then the one really great moment they had set up, he just ruined.
I just feel like I grew out of his humor.
It reminds me of that scene from what is it, Tommy Boy, where he's talking to the waitress and he's like got the bun in his hand and he's like, and I stroke it and caress it and I screw it all up, and he rips it to shreds. That's what James Gunn did to Peacemaker. Yeah, I just had to say that, and this was the first opportunity I had to bring it up.
Happy to help.
Yeah. All right, everybody, we're going to go to your super chats and Rumble rants, so smash the like button, share the show with literally everyone you know. Start texting. Go through your phone book. Say, here's the show, watch it. The uncensored portion of the show is coming up at 10 p.m. at rumble.com/Timcast IRL. You don't want to miss it, but what you got to do is you got to join the Discord server at timcast.com. Unity is our strength. Diversity is divide and conquer. When they tell us diversity is our strength, they're not talking about you and me. They're talking about their multicultural democracy, and they need to divide and conquer, fracture, and destroy. You go to timcast.com, you join our Discord server, and you will find a community of tens of thousands of people. There's early morning shows, there's after shows. People are helping each other solve problems, and unity and community will be our strength. Not to mention, you are supporting the work we do, and you get to call in to the members-only uncensored portion of the show. And one more thing, we are going to be experimenting with Fridays, recording the show earlier than we normally do. Why? Well, Fridays are typically slow news days where we end up riffing a lot of the time. So I said, what if we did something with the Discord community earlier in the day? We recorded the show, and then instead of super chats on Fridays, we bring in the Discord for the main portion of the show. So we're going to be trying that. So I encourage you guys to go to timcast.com and sign up, and you will be the back half an hour for the Friday night show.
You got to have like the sign from V for Vendetta, the strength through unity sign that he carves the V in on the wall at the beginning of the movie.
I mean, it's funny because they paint in that movie, it's a Christian nationalist society, strength through unity, and they're evil villains who are torturing people. You know what I'd like to do? I'm really excited for AI because already Sora 2 has the capability to make feature-length movies that are good. The problem is that the processing power is too great and there's too many people who want to use it. But I guarantee you, OpenAI internally is probably already doing this. It's just not released to the public. I am going to make a few movies. One, Darth Vader is the good guy. The Empire did nothing wrong. It's all propaganda. And then I'm going to make V for Vendetta, where V is the bad guy, and it's all propaganda.
Can we remake seasons 6 to 8 on Game of Thrones?
Yes.
7 to 8. We'll do 7 to 8.
At least so you can see what's going on in some of
We
those
just need
last
to remake the
episodes.
ending. I can't rewatch the show, even though it was my favorite of all time. It's a bummer.
I'd like to remake V for Vendetta. And my argument is this. Obviously, in the film, the government are the bad guys. They staged a fake pandemic, killed people, shut things down.
Experimented on people.
What I would do is I would rewrite it from the perspective of V being the villain trying to tear down a country, because in the V universe, the United States has fallen into civil war, and much of the world is in disarray, and they have isolated themselves to protect them from the outside threats. You tell it from that perspective, where there is this guy who is an extremist trying to destroy the government for his wacky ideological views, and people supporting him. I think it'd be more fun. Not to mention, if you get rid of in the first Star Wars, what did the Empire do wrong? They blew up a planet. If you rewrite it from the perspective of the Empire, I put it like this. Everybody thinks they're the hero of their own story. So you rewrite Star Wars from the perspective of the Empire, and it's, Alderaan was effectively a terror base. And he didn't blow it up. He decimated it. You rewrite it.
So like in V for Vendetta, the inciting incident towards the end is where the soldier, the fingerman, kills the little girl wearing the mask. He'll just remake it so she's got like a bomb vest on.
If I was going to have AI do it, I'd literally just say, write this with an inverted perspective where the good guys are the bad guys are the good guys, and justify it properly, blah, blah, blah. But I wouldn't write... no, I think... I talked about this with the Dublin riots. I don't appreciate Antifa riots. Why? Because they're rioting like retards for things that make no sense. I've got only the minorest of criticisms for the riots in Dublin right now. Why? Because they're rioting because a quote-unquote asylum seeker raped a 10-year-old girl. Or has been charged with raping a 10-year-old girl. So when the police protect somebody who raped a 10-year-old girl or a group of men who have been raping little girls, I can understand why people are rioting. Because there is an evil governmental force protecting child rapists. However, we know that's true. The left thinks that police are going around massacring black people, and that's not true. Their riots are retarded. So I don't like rioting in general. That's why I'm saying I have criticisms. Don't burn down police vehicles and stuff. There are ways you can be more effective than this. But I'm also like, I understand why they're rioting.
Yeah.
Did you hear about the girl in Sweden who was raped? Did you guys hear about this?
Which one? All right, come on.
So she was raped by an asylum seeker, in quotes. And the judge ruled that it wasn't long enough to deport him, that the rape was not long enough.
Do you know how long
that's
it
an
was?
actual thing. No, but that's an actual thing that occurred.
I mean, if that's how we're measuring
Yep.
sex.
All right. Let's read your chats. We got Mythos. He says, War Thunder is a far more serious national security risk than a CNN employee nowadays. Uncontested says, correction, they want to eat their cake and have it too. Yep. Money Badger says, follow Antifa, and what you'll find are furries and commies, but you follow the money and you have no idea where that'll take you. Yep.
It's true.
Shane Water says, congrats to Phil and Sarah. Let's go.
Do we know if they had a boy or girl? Well, I guess I'll wait and ask.
We're going to wait for Phil, yeah.
Yeah.
Deplorable says, who was putting the pallets of bricks on corners during the Summer of Love? Random acts of brickings?
Was that ever like? I thought somebody said that was debunked or something. I don't know.
I don't believe it.
Like,
There's a pallet of bricks next to a building for no reason, and they're just like, it just so happens wherever these protests are, there's construction that needs pallets of bricks.
yeah.
I don't believe it. It is weird those bricks were everywhere, but who knows?
Yeah, there's just like constant, all this new brick construction that we're seeing. What's
You know how
going
hard
on?
it is to get stuff built these
It's
days.
all everything's made of plastic now. What do you need the bricks for?
Mason says, if you remake Game of Thrones, Jaime needs to kill the Night King with his sword, newly aflame with the voices of everyone who called him Kingsland? You mean Kingslayer? As the only sound you hear. Keller says, just a simple question. Why wouldn't Israel build the exact same buildings and city next to Iran and just move Gaza there?
I don't think Iran would take them in, but I do like the idea for Egypt. Like, Egypt should annex parts of Gaza.
Bro.
They don't want the
No, we have to force them
The
to.
wall is bigger on the Egyptian side. It's Jordan doesn't want it.
Right.
Jordan doesn't want them. Egypt doesn't want them. You should listen to Egyptians talk about Palestinians.
Well, Jordans don't want their country to be taken over. Jordan is already like, I think 30 or 40% Palestinian, but their king isn't. They also dealt with terrorists from the PLO, I believe it was. I believe one of the kings of Jordan was murdered by a Palestinian terrorist. So there's a lot of resentment and tension there. Rather make it their issue, though, than ours.
One thing we can do is we can Neuralink everybody, and then they'll just stop fighting.
Yo,
like
did that even go anywhere? I swear Elon
Neuralink?
Musk announces things that just disappear from
Well,
people caring or...
there was a big advent in
projects.
Neuralink.
Sure.
We discussed it, and now we're waiting for the next development.
No, there was like a guy controlling.
Yeah.
He was playing, Hoi 4 or
Yeah, it was
something.
crazy. Yeah.
He was playing Civilization, I think.
The Civ.
Yeah, he was playing
Don't
Civ.
bet against Elon Musk. That's
He could. He's totally paralyzed, and he's sitting there, and they put a computer in front of him. He was playing Civilization.
He's
I mean,
playing
bro.
Civ. It's like, great, we made him autistic.
Civ's great, man.
I'm saying this as a devout Civ player.
All right. The Real Hydro says, Timcast IRL number 913 with Ryan Long and Danny Polishchuk, quote, he adds that if an acid eats the metal, quote, it leaves a plastic bag. The whole inside is coated. What is that from? This liquid death thing's kind of funny because a bunch of news outlets are like talking about picking it up. And the CEO just made it so bad for himself. Here's an AI news website talking about it. I don't know. But yeah, I've been talking about this for, oh yeah, a bunch of people are talking about it. Pooled water. Spa water will be carbonated. Someone said make toilet water. I said, that'll be our chocolate drink.
Nice.
If you can get as much carbonation as the Mineragua water, let's go.
Mineragua is a glass bottle water with a crown cap. It does have plastic in the cap, and it's about $1 per bottle at your local grocery store.
I get the I can get it in a plastic bottle at the dollar store.
No, but you can get them in glass for $1 as well. So if you like glass,
Probably different sizes. The
12 ounces.
The plastic bottle is like 16.
I think they might. I'm pretty sure they're 12-ounce bottles. If you want a glass bottle product, rubber corks were incredibly common, I think even like 30 years ago, but they cost around 2 cents more per crown cap. So if you want plastic free, it is available. These things do exist. But most people just never cared about the plastics. So nobody cares if the gasket on your crown cap is plastic versus rubber.
We could do the plastic bottle and call it slop water. It could be an option.
Slop water.
Yeah. Or sell Flint water. We have some options.
Flint water.
Yeah, there's a lot
That's
of
a
options.
good one.
Yeah.
I think we're actually going to do cans of water as well for the people that don't care about plastic. And we're going to, pool water in a can for people who don't care about plastic.
Yeah.
I don't want a
I
cask.
also-
I want a freaking spa water.
Yeah.
Did they ever fix the Flint water?
I don't know.
We just cruised by.
I think everyone just moved out, so we don't know. Yeah, there's no one left.
It's not an election.
Hey,
year
I'll tell you
anymore.
a
I was
story.
in Michigan for my wedding. I made sure not to go to Flint.
I'll tell you guys a story. I went to Flint and I took samples of the tap water from several buildings as well as from the river and brought it to NYU for spectral analysis to see what was wrong with it. Nothing. So I was at Fusion. This was during the Flint water crisis where the media was all claiming the water was bad. And so I said, I got a great idea. Let's go and collect water samples and film a video where I do a spectral analysis on the water with a mass spectrometer, and then we can show just what's wrong with the water. They loved the idea. I went to NYU. I reached out to them, got a sample kit. They said, we need control samples, and then we need, regular samples. So what we did was I took samples of water from where I lived in Miami in the Redlands, 2 of each. You take 2 samples from each water source. Went to Flint, went to a residence, went to 2 businesses, and went to the river. Collected water from 2 different parts of the river, 2 samples from each, went back, gave them the samples, and they found that the Flint water was totally fine, and the water from Miami was really high in uranium, and they believe that's from fertilizer runoff from the farmlands. And I went to the company. I can't remember exactly who I was talking to, but I was like, we got the results back from NYU, and it found the water was fine. And the response was, well, that can't be right. Something must be wrong. We have to do it again because everyone's already reported the water is toxic and bad. It's got lead in it. And I was like, I got the samples from a house, 2 businesses, and the river, and we didn't see high levels of lead or anything. I think selenium was high, but that wasn't considered to be a big deal. And we were like, how do we publish a story that goes against literally everything every news organization is saying right now? We must have gotten something wrong.
Yeah.
So either we go back and redo this, or the story's dead, and the story died.
Wow.
I'm actually just more inclined to believe that they lied the whole time.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
What do I know? All right. Anyway, let's grab some more. Millennial Mama says Glenn Beck said that when the FBI visited him, they said they were starting from scratch with the Antifa investigation. They wanted info that came from his October 8th special. Glad to hear they've gotten pretty far pretty quickly. Indeed. Brian Dayton says, if you created the Timcast newsroom, I would 100% support and be a longtime viewer. Time for Timcast to put CNN out of business. So here's an interesting thing. We actually had around, like 10,000 more members than we do today because of the newsroom we had at the time. But the newsroom was costing us an insane amount of money, and we were getting sued over it. So it was unsustainable. We moved it to Scanner. We couldn't figure out how to monetize it. And ultimately, we were like, it's not performing the way we need it to, and it's draining our resources. So I think we got to shut it down. We tried moving some people over to make sure people were still able to work. But considering now the changing landscape, we've actually been having a discussion about bringing back some elements of the news team, but to scanner.com, not through Timcast. SCNR right now largely just hosts the Inverted World podcast, and it was where our news team was. But we're actually thinking of bringing back independent news reporting through scnr.com, and we're openly discussing it. It is incredibly expensive. It is extremely hard to do. Now that we got Pentagon press credentials, we'll get at least some we can bring some value to you guys. Don't expect deep investigative stuff because that's not what we do. It's going to be more general inquiry questions. When a news story happens pertaining to like the boat strikes in Venezuela or whatever, we'll reach out for a comment, things like that. That's what we're looking at right now, and I think it would be a very good idea. But it's going to be wholly separate from timcast.com, Discord community, and all that stuff if we do it, because this was the problem. The muddying, like Timcast.com offering everything from the podcast and a news team. When the news team got in trouble, it threatened to shut the podcast down. So then we were like, let's move the news team to a different company so that they're 2 separate entities, because Timcast IRL is a separate entity with its own standards. It shouldn't get shut down because someone wrote a news article. The problem then is we need to create 2 distinct memberships. So how many of you would be willing to pay $10 a month for Timcast.com and $10 a month for Scanner News?
And brand recognition matters too.
Right. But the Scanner was using Timcast News. You know, it's a separate company using, and we allow the branding to be used in that way. So that would be the idea. We could theoretically make, that's the challenge. The news team needs its own unique funding. The podcast needs its own unique funding. Boonies needs its own unique funding. It's very, very difficult. How many people want to sign up for Timcast Scanner and Boonies? That's the challenge we're facing for the core fan base. Hopefully, Boonies will build up its own members who just care about skateboarding, and the newsroom will build up its own members who just care about news. But we're going to start small this time. The original idea was we have the budget, we're going to hire journalists, and then the show started getting put at risk very seriously. Now what I think we'll do is we'll bring on like 1 or 2 journalists for SCNR, start putting out some articles, and then build up memberships from there and grow it organically. So we'll have some reporting from the Pentagon for you. And the media will cry. What do we got here? Scott Kuhn says, charitable foundations get around the ban on lobbying Congress by setting up an NGO and making donations large enough no one has to report where it came from or where it went. You know, I'm fairly certain that lobbying is done at the poker table. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Ain't nothing anyone can do about it. You sit down at a poker table, you buy in for 50 grand. The lobbyist then says, I'm going to bet $25,000.
Oh, you're saying like actual payoffs?
Yes.
Going, oh, okay. Like that scene in...
You go to a poker table, lobbyist sits down, bets $25,000 on their hand. The recipient then says, I'm all in. The lobbyist then goes, you got me, I fold. And now you have a recordable legal transaction from a lobbyist to the recipient, politician or otherwise, or PAC or whatever group. And when it goes to the tax, when you file your IRS, you say, it was a poker game. Yep.
Maybe Pritzker had something like that going on. I think he had, it was
Indeed.
blackjack.
No. BS.
I forgot. I need to reread the article, but he had like gambling winnings of over $1 million or something like that.
$1.4 million from Pritzker. And he said, I got lucky playing cards. His reported income for the year was $10 million. Ain't nobody making 14% of their income getting lucky one weekend. He goes, look, we went to Vegas for a weekend. I got very lucky playing cards. I mean, he is a billionaire. So maybe he played some high stakes poker or something. But I'm going to go ahead and say, just not that I have any evidence to this, but I think, guys, let me tell you, watch Hustler Casino or The Lodge when they play high stakes. And there are certain characters you'll see on these shows that they'll make a bet of like 100 grand on the worst hand imaginable. There was recently a guy, and I'm not trying to impugn anyone's honor. I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm saying this is an example of a weird scenario. He had 8-3 offsuit. Okay, for those who don't know anything about poker, that is like your chance of winning is less than 10%. And he bet 100 grand and lost. And everyone was like, yes, why would you do that? He must have been tilted, I guess. Makes you wonder.
There's this guy, Nick Airball, who plays on Hustler.
Oh, yes.
That's his brand to like
His
shove
brand
you.
is no one understands where his money comes from.
That's what it is too.
No. His brand is not shoving 8-3. Nick's better than that. It's just he's largely considered to be not that good of a player who somehow lost $5 million one year.
You and Allison, you guys are pretty good poker players. You guys come
Allison's
across
called the
winnings like
manslayer.
that?
Allison's nickname is the Manslayer.
I've never beaten her in poker. Whenever I play with her, I lose to her.
You can't. She's too good.
So, but does she come across winnings like that? Is she a Pritzker level gambler?
No, we play low stakes. 1-2, bro.
Well, she is the manslayer.
This is like, it's like on a weekend you enter. 1-2 means it's usually $400-$500. And then Allison is very patient, and she destroys all of the men.
I need to join you next time you guys go play some poker. It's been a while.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I like the idea that Tim goes. He's like, I'm going to bet Brett's salary this week.
Dude, you should see him at the poker table. The way Tim plays, well, he's obviously very comfortable in the stakes that he plays. Because people get stressed out, like when you get shoved on, but Tim doesn't have that stress. So,
those are bad poker players.
Sure.
People should not be playing at stakes that they can't afford.
That they can't bankroll. Yeah.
Right. So you'll see a dude show up to the casino and he's playing 1-2. He bought it for $100 and he's shaking. It's like, bro, take your $100, go home. Like, put it in your bank, save your money, work hard, come back when you can afford $1, $2 bet.
Allison eats fish like those for breakfast. So
They call them manslayer.
Yeah.
We were driving to the card room a year and a half ago, and I was jokingly telling her, like, oh, we're going to pull in, and the old men, they're sitting there, they're playing, they're going to see her, and they're going to go, oh, no, it's the manslayer. And she's chuckling like, yeah. We walk into the casino, and some old guy goes, oh, not you. And then she started laughing. The reason why she's so good at poker is because she goes to the casino to hang out, largely to play with me. So we want to play at the same table, and it's fun to hang out. So for me, I'm doing all this advanced strategy and I'm trying to trap people. I'm trying to experiment with like, bluffing a certain guy and goofing off. So it can be give or take sometimes. Allison is just like fold, 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 kings, I bet. And then when they bet, she's like, I'll call. And so they think she's weak and then jam and she calls, I have the nuts. And they're like, no one can beat her because she's only playing the strongest hands and she doesn't raise.
Don't take this the wrong way. She looks bluffable and she'll call you down. That's the issue. I've tried to bluff her. She's strong, stay hard, and she doesn't fold.
Well, it's just the thing is, I would just describe Allison as playing at advanced poker at the highest level. They'd probably crush her because they'd start pulling off bluffs and they'd start exploiting. But at low stakes, she just plays the tightest game possible. So it's like for her, it's nuts or nothing. And then what ends up happening is someone thinks she can't be that strong, and then she always ends up beating them. We got to grab more super chats. Stop talking poker, though. All right. Daniel J. Corica says, Long Island has a larger population than Rhode Island. If the communist becomes mayor of NYC, Long Island should become the 51st state and tell New York to go spit.
Yo, who is this based patriot sending in this super chat right now?
Long Island nationalist?
For real, let's go. And we're taking Brooklyn and Queens when we secede too. Brooklyn and Queens are a part of Long Island. Go look at a map.
And you'll need Rikers. There's a lot of people that need to go there. So
Sure.
Yeah.
That's true.
Multiple islands involved.
Dennis Hughes says, congratulations to Phil and Sarah. Shout out.
Yes, sir.
GT Orbit says, baby, just got to hospital to welcome my third child. Shout out to Serge from Parma, Idaho.
Let's go.
We're making babies
Dude,
tonight.
Elon, you can take a few weeks off. We're pumping out a lot of Patriots here. This is great.
We are now at the phase with my daughter where she's about, 8 months now. And I made a strawberry smoothie, and she was having lentils and I think like mashed carrots. And she just stopped eating and just stared at me as I was scooping this delicious strawberry smoothie. And, Allison was like, I don't understand. She loves everything. And I'm like, because she's seeing me eat this and she's like, I want what he's having. She doesn't want to eat the healthy food. She wants to know what I got because mine looks very, very different. And she won't open her mouth. And it was very funny and we enjoyed it.
Oh.
All right, everybody, smash that like button. Share the show with everyone. We're going to go over to rumble.com/Timcast IRL for the uncensored portion of the show where you, as members of the Discord, can call in. So make sure you join us at timcast.com. $10 a month. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Nate, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, if you guys want to know who the paid protesters are, Nate Friedman 97 on YouTube. I put out videos like once or twice a week, so definitely check it out.
Definitely. Nate is a very worthy follower, and I'm excited to see what's to come. You have a lot of work to do out there. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. My name's Elaad Eliyahu. I'm the White House correspondent and now Pentagon correspondent here at Timcast. Also, I don't know if you guys noticed, I am wearing my UB shirt, the Buffalo Bulls shirt, because I went to college, and I know there's this sort of anti-education streak going on in the right. Guys, after I graduated college, I was too a little bit unnerved with the degree I got and how it went and my job prospects after the fact, but actually getting an education, the more time I spend around people who didn't go to college, it might be a good idea, guys. I'll just leave you with that. Brett?
He's talking about me, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys want to follow me, I am on Instagram and on X at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. But what you should do is check out Pop Culture Crisis. We are live Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and Rumble. Hope to see you there, guys.
Yeah, you can follow me on X and Instagram at Real Tate Brown. Usually hold it out on Thursdays, so you'll probably see me tomorrow. So come hang out. Come hang out.
Right. Taking that morning show. We're grooming Tate.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
it's true.
host.
I'm being actively groomed. Yeah.
Look, you're up on the donation.
That's
page,
true.
too.
Yeah.
It's true. This is So being actively groomed, but this is a positive grooming. I'm actually encouraging this. I think this is good. So
when we were talking about the group chats from the Young Republicans, and the meme was where someone said gay retard, and then some leftist was like, why would someone call someone a gay retard? And the response was, because they're my friend. And then Tate said, all of his friends are gay retards. It's his enemies that are normal.
Right.
And I said, this is the kind of talent we need here at Timcast. All right, we're going to see you all over at rumble.com/Timcast IRL in a second. Thanks for hanging out.